looking. Steps back in the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. Jahmyr Gibbs, what a play by Bryce Young.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Looking for Johnston now. Speaking of big plays, he's got it, and it's a touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Williams, and it's intercepted. Cam Smith read it so well.
Cam Smith was all over that play.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Here's Stroud being chased down, but then launches downfield. And that ball is intercepted. Bobbling it in the hands of Banks. And Deontay Banks still on his feet and brought down at the 48-yard line.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Across the middle is Slovis. That's a Banacanda. Makes a man miss. There goes Izzy. Izzy! Touchdown Pitt! 24 yards.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, about an hour ago or so, Paul Catalina and I wrapped up an interview with Brigham Young football coach Kalani Sitake, their last day of workouts. They've already had their spring game, so to speak, kind of in the middle of it, a little bit unique. And we have Kalani Sitake today who'll join us a little bit, in a little bit over an hour. We'll also check in with TCU today, Baylor today, Max Olson, theathletic.com today, former Oilers great and Hall of Famer Robert Brazil, a part of the class into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame tomorrow. And then Paul's top five and a few other nuggets to get to as well. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for being here every day. We appreciate you and your time you spend with us. So, college prospects, what is it? Has it always been? And is it 5 visits, 5
Yes.
official visits? It's
5
unofficial,
officials.
but there's 5 visits, right?
Yes, 5 officials.
Well, the NCAA Division I Council on Thursday came up with that now athletes, high school athletes, will be able to take an unlimited number of official visits as part of the recruiting process starting on July 1. These are the new rules. Recruits will be able to will be limited to 1 official visit per school now, unless there's a coaching change. So you can go to Texas, or you can go to Oklahoma, or you can go to Tech, or you can go to Baylor or TCU or whoever, Alabama, Ohio State, but you can't go twice on an official visit unless there's a coaching change at one of those schools.
Yeah, there's some other thing, like the coaches, there's less of a window, so they can maybe have more of a life, and they're not always recruiting. Plus, that's changed. The schools can still only have 56
official
visits. So it's not like, the recruits can go infinitely, and so can the schools. So I think it probably makes sense for 2023 and beyond recruiting, because there are going to be some guys who are going to try to take 25 official visits. Walter Nolan, last year's number 1 overall prospect that signed with A&M, could have taken 700 visits if he wanted to. He could have gone to every single school.
Even those in China and Russia.
Yeah, wherever he wanted to go. If he called them up and said, I'm taking an official visit, they would have used one of their 56. But for the most part, I would say this means that kids can probably take 10. Well, at the higher level, the more in-demand guys will take 10 or 12, and most of them might just take 7 or 8.
I mean, we were just conditioned to think that 5's what's supposed to be.
Yeah,
if it had started off as 8, then we'd be going, well, why they moving to 9? This is ridiculous. 8 was perfect, right? That's what we would do, right? So, I know initially it's like, well, 5's not enough. Like, you can't decide from 5 visits. That's crazy. But, I mean, a Walter Nolan, like you said, or, these top prospects that really do have all of these top schools that are coming after them, maybe that does allow them some freedom where they don't have to narrow it down, the top 5-ish as early as they do, or they don't have to limit it to just 5 official visits. They can go to that 6th, 7th, 8th. And I think it's, a nice move forward into modernizing the recruiting rules. I know initially there's probably going to be some, blowback of like kids these days, like where do you draw the line? And I'm sure I've seen some of that, on social media, just people initially reacting to a headline. But yeah, once you dive further into it, I mean, the schools aren't going to automatically be on the hook for all this extra money for these extra visits. They can say no, for one.
Absolutely.
And two, yeah, they are still locked into a number. So long as, you don't rip away the 56 visits or whatever you could host, then I think that's okay. But if you were to like rip that away to where if Ohio State wants to, they can host 100 official visits and they want to pay for all that, whereas a Baylor can maybe only host like 60, maxing it out, well, they just chalk that up as another benefit for being a bigger, larger, richer school. But right now, that's not necessarily the case. There are still some, breaks along the way, or break tapping along the way as far as, like I said, the official visit number stays for the school. You can't visit twice unless there's a coaching change. So there are some, things that are keeping it within a certain parameter. But, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see who uses that and how. I mean, who's the first guy to go on, 15 official visits? And I'm sure there will be at least 1 or 2 or however many people that will end up doing that. How many of these schools just freely open the doors to guys that are, considering 12 other schools that they've been on official visits on. So with that number still in place for schools, I think it'll be interesting to see how they're calculated with it for those who may be able to welcome more into their doors. Since there is a cap on it, it's not just a free-for-all. So, I'm very curious of how that kind of works for both the schools and for the players as well.
Well, it is changing. So you have a lot. Here's what happened. It's like when Berlin, eventually the wall came down, right? And there's this free flow. And in college athletics, there was a wall. Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. The NCAA was one of the most feared entities or businesses or groups in America, other than perhaps maybe the IRS. And they would not budge. They were not going to give athletes much. That doesn't mean that there weren't things that were getting better. And now they pretty much have almost everything. They have almost open free agency. They have ability to get paid. They will now have more visits to take because who knows? Maybe somebody knows without even taking a visit, they're going to go to Florida State or Oklahoma or somewhere else. But for some, let's say you get through 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden some other schools that were perhaps not interested in you or you weren't interested in them, and then you watch them play a few times, and you want to go, and you're locked out because you've already taken 5 visits. So there's something to that to be said, too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're team number 6 on the official visit list, well, guess what? Now you're going to get an official visit as long as you haven't, overran your allotted number of visits, which if there's a guy who, you really want and he's putting you at visit 6 or beyond, I mean, if that's who you really want, then yeah, you have the freedom to make it happen, whereas before you just hope that you made a solid enough impression and a better impression through phone and email and, an unofficial visit versus the trip to Gainesville or Austin or, Madison or wherever where they got the full meal deal. So I can see where it's going to be certainly a benefit for the bigger schools, but I think this is kind of sweeping. I think it could benefit everybody just in different ways. In the smaller schools that, I saw one kind of narrative that I saw building in a couple of different articles was the local factor, which is going back to the, if you're visit number 6 or 7, but you don't get it. Well, now maybe a guy does take a visit closer to home because he's got the freedom and doesn't have to limit it to, well, I've only got 5. I better go 5 places where it's a plane trip, to fully take advantage of it. Now, maybe with visit number 6, you stay in Dallas and go to visit TCU or SMU or wherever. So that could work out both ways pretty well. We'll see, though. It's like anything else, on the surface. There's always a way to, go to the extreme in college sports. So I'm trying to imagine who's already cooking up how they can do that.
Well, Kirby Smart is.
Yeah, probably.
He's already figuring out how he can maximize his 56. He already does. But I do think an interesting thing about this was, you mentioned, the Twitter panic, because kids will release a graphic of these are my top 16 schools. Well, now he could go visit all 16 of those schools, but when it comes time to start making those visit arrangements officially, there are kids that are 4-star and 3-star guys that get 16 offers, but when they start, trying to make those visits, that'll get whittled down to maybe 10 too, because some of them will have already gotten somebody at that position. Maybe they weren't the chief one, or there's overlap there. They can't schedule it. So, yeah, I think everybody's freaking out because the kids that put out the top 16 graphics are like, I'm going all 16 of these places. I just doubt that stuff's ever really going to happen. The logistics of it alone is really hard to work out.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to play a season. You still have to take care of some other things. I mean, 16 weekend official visits, that's going to take up a lot of time. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure somebody will abuse it, but I don't think that it's necessarily another dagger in the coffin of the NCAA and college football structure. I just think that, yeah, both sides are going to benefit in different ways, and big schools might benefit a little bit more, but there is some benefit to the smaller schools as well. So it'll be fascinating to see what that turns into.
Tomorrow, the transfer portal opens. Some schools won't be done. Some schools have their spring game tomorrow, and some, like Brigham Young, wrap up everything by tonight when they finish their practice. Again, Kalani Sitake in about an hour, the BYU head coach. He discusses how they had to go back to kind of some old school basics on physicality and hitting and things like that, which maybe we have in football gotten away from a little bit much, maybe needed to in some ways, but he has that. We'll have that in an hour. But it does appear now the transfer portal tomorrow ends on April 30th. Some schools don't have a game until next weekend. So it kind of puts them in a position where their game wraps up on what would be the 22nd, and they have a week. But for those who want to leave their school program, and then also in turn they got to find a way to grab onto others, not that it won't open up again at some point down the road. Garrett sent me 15 text messages today on a tweet that he saw because he's proud of his favorite college football program. This is from the Pro Football Focus. They do a pretty good job, do a really good job in a lot of things like this. The most wide receivers drafted since 2010, which happened to be the first year that I ever started covering Baylor and in Waco. LSU at the top. There's Clemson and Ohio State, who's been in this major surge with what they have.
Yeah, they're coming for it.
Yeah, they're on their way.
They're not a problem.
Okay. LSU and then Georgia. With Georgia, I don't know why, but for some reason that kind of surprised me that they had that many. Oklahoma, we know that they've been filling the NFL draft for quite some time. USC, Baylor at 8. Baylor had a great run when Briles was here, and then even after that, they've had a nice run when it comes to wide receivers, and then including Tyquan Thornton, of course, who's having a nice first year, had a nice first year with New England, and then there's Florida and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see, the breakdown of that. I think LSU would probably still be at the top, but Ohio State would be right there. Bama would be right there. Like if you were talking about like impact and you had all these different categories ranked, because Baylor's 8 wouldn't stack up very well over the long haul, because, I just saw a picture of Corey Coleman. He's playing in like the AF or USFL or whatever, and that's good for him that he's still kicking the tires, but that was a guy who you really thought was going to be a star, and it just didn't work out that way. Denzel Mims has been very kind of just in no man's land with the Jets. But, yeah, Tyquan had a good year, and he's a guy that you hopefully can build it up. But, I wonder what that number would have been had things stayed the course. And I know that's a what-if game that a lot of people will play for forever, but they were only going to get better at recruiting and only going to bring in more Corey Colemans and KD Cannons and guys like that. So
I can give you one more that's on the Ravens right now, Devin Duvernay.
Devin Duvernay would have been a Bear. Sure would have. And, I'm sure there's others as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's still a pretty salty number, though, given that, it definitely got interrupted there. But, yeah, I mean, Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, they've been churning them out, and that's a great competition. Oklahoma obviously had a great run as well. They'll add, some more this year, at least one with Marvin Mims and wherever he goes. But, yeah, that's a cool list to look at.
All right, go back up to that list, Garrett. Hold on, Paul. Go back to that list. I'm still blown away by this one. Georgia, 11 players drafted since 2010. That doesn't mean that you have to have been an All-American. But the TUSC, the USC on our chat room, I went to go look at this. They have had, in the history of their program, one receiver, Terrence Edwards in 2002, who had over 1,000 yards receiving in one season. Not A.J. Green, not Hines Ward, Andre Hastings. A.J. Green was very close a couple of different times. Isn't that kind of stunning? In the history of Georgia football, and they're known for their running backs, obviously, and defensive players, but I would have thought that somebody in that time would have had most likely but 1,000 yards or so 5 or 6 times in their career.
But by the way, I will take LSU's top 2 currently against anybody else on the list in Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And that's not even getting into some of the other guys that are around the league that are good players. But Justin Jefferson's number 1 in the league right now, and Jamar Chase is not far off from that either. I mean, I wouldn't put him below 5, and then when you're getting in Justin Jefferson, obviously after last season, is number 1, and the other 4 you can kind of jumble as you see fit. But yeah, LSU they're not only quality, but what they're putting in is pretty darn good. That doesn't even
include a guy who just got $15 to $18 million.
Odell Beckham Jr. Yeah. Jarvis Landry's been a really good player for a really long time, so.
All right, so there's that list with Garrett pounding my phone throughout the day. Even one text, I think, might have been at 4 o'clock in the morning. Hey, did you see this?
Yeah. Got to, man. Got to make sure you're observing.
Yeah, I know.
No, that's where do you think Booty goes?
Man, that's a good question. I think the way last year went, he's probably going to fall late, like fourth or 5th round. Yeah. I would be very apprehensive to take him, man. Like, he was not.
You got question marks.
A lot of question marks.
Did he leave?
Yeah. So he didn't even participate in the bowl game because of that whole incident.
Yeah.
So he's disappointing.
They should add him, but I know Alabama and Ohio State obviously is going to get Jackson Smith and Jigba pretty high, so they're all going to keep adding to that this year, and we'll have to redo that chart. But yeah, that's impressive. That's good recruiting, and that's definitely when you're looking at like LSU and Bama and just like pound for pound, just not just the players but the stars is it's pretty impressive.
The smallest you would think tradition program in that list would be Baylor. Obviously, the last 10 or 12 years, they've had more than just relevant. They've been knocking on the door, and they've had some ups and downs with 1-11 and 2-7. But since 2010, and that's when this thing started, but all the other LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, USC, Florida, and Notre Dame. And that's kind of why it helps that Baylor has been relevant because of the wide receiver play. And some of it, of course, guys that were phenomenal in the college game that just didn't transfer. And a lot of it, I don't know if it was always true or not, but you heard about whether or not they could understand the route tree, the passing game, whatever. And some of them just weren't quite ready mentally as well. Terrence Williams, I thought, was going to turn out to be really, really good. And, of course, he eventually went south when he was playing for the Cowboys.
Well, let's run through it real quick. Do you want to?
Yeah, the 8.
From 2010?
Yeah.
David Geddes.
David Geddes was a pretty good player.
Kendall Wright.
Okay, yeah.
He was a number 20 overall, had a pretty good career. He faded out as he was in there longer,
Yeah.
But he had a brief a couple year stretch, you'd say probably, where he was like a star in the making type of guy. So he was pretty good, just not like super longevity for Kendall Wright. Josh Gordon, we know the what ifs there. I mean, dude's still playing. He's played in every single league that's cropped up, I think, with the exception of maybe like 1 or 2 over the last few years. He's been in every single offshoot league and even been in and out of the NFL. I mean,
an incredible, gifted, phenomenal body, unbelievable player, and just could not stop from leaning into smoking marijuana.
Smoking weed, yep. Terrence Williams had a pretty nice career with the Cowboys. I think that, him and Dez were obviously running buddies, but you take Terrence's career, even though it didn't end the best way necessarily. He kind of, burned out, but still had a nice enough career. Tevin Reese, sweet feet, didn't really make a mark. Got drafted, but didn't make a mark in the NFL. Corey Coleman, obviously that's one of those what if. Jalen Hurd, that's another one of those just never really could stay healthy, and something just wasn't right there. I don't know what he talk about just potential out of this world, but it's never clicked fully for him. Denzel Mims, obviously it's been a journey, just trying to find his footing in New York. And then Tyquan Thornton, and there's your
looks
list.
like now of Kendall Wright, caught 339 passes, 19 touchdowns. David Geddes, he was there. He only played 1 year. He played with Carolina, then did not play at all much with 11 and 12 with Carolina. Terrence Williams, let's see. I got his stats here in front of me. I think he had about 2 or 3 decent years in his career with the Cowboys, and then that kind of just fell apart too. And Elvis says not giving me that, but yeah, and Coleman on and off, Kendall Wright on and off, as we mentioned. Kendall, I guess, out of all of them, and perhaps it'll be Tyquan Thornton. Kendall's the only one that had any kind of decent staying power, and even he played 6 years.
I would say Kendall and Terrence are about the same as far as their efficacy. Kendall's exit was a little quieter than Terrence's. Terrence had some stuff going on. He's playing down in Mexico right now in that league, and it's the best. Terrence is, and is apparently pretty happy and tearing it up down there. So
Terrence Williams caught 232 passes and 20 touchdowns. Actually had a couple of more than Kendall. So those are the two that have at least some, what would you call, rings on the tree, some meat on the bone with their career. All right, so there's that. Thank you, Garrett, for showing that. So the same thing as
Jefferson and Chase and Beckham and all those
guys. Yeah, no, very much.
Same thing.
Those guys are going to have they're going to be past that number like in maybe a year or two as far as how many? I bet. Okay, Terrence Williams had 375 catches in 6 years. No, actually 232 catches in 6 years. Wouldn't Jefferson almost be at that point by now?
Probably. He's got to be.
He was on the 19 national championship team, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to be pretty close. I mean, guys now catch 80, 90, 120 passes a year. So there's that. Max Olson will join us in just a moment. Here's a couple of quick notes, by the way. Daniel Snyder, we know the story. We discussed it yesterday. Here's 3 different comments from an article today. I thought some of this was funny. I'm not trying to, the guy's obviously going through a time where he's selling a franchise he didn't want to, but he's going to have to. Dan Snyder has been a bad owner. Engulfed in scandal for a long time. It's like a sinister God Bluth.
Job.
Same thing. Was handed an NFL franchise. The same question has been repeated forever. How has Snyder kept the team for so long? It's been 24 years. And then this is a great explanation. If your rival sucks, do you want him fired? You ever hear of Alabama demanding that Auburn fire a coach because Bama kept beating them or winning? This rivalry is too lopsided.
No, and yes, Dan Snyder is very much like Joe Bluth from Arrested Development, without any of the self-awareness of which Job had very little. But I think that, I mean, look, they didn't care that the Redskins, none of the owners care that the other teams stink or not.
As long as they're bringing in money.
As long as they're bringing in money. Where Dan Snyder got fouled, they didn't care that he was getting sued for a lot of things. They didn't care because that's his own thing, and he's a billionaire, and usually that works out for them.
And some of them didn't want people nosing around their own franchise.
Yes, but where they got mad at Dan Snyder is when they found out that he was withholding money from them. Allegedly. And then it's like, hold on, look, we've backed you up on all this stuff, and we're not getting our full cut potentially? No.
Now you're taking money out of our pockets. Now we're mad.
Well, and then if you're Philadelphia, if you're Jeffrey Lurie and Jeffrey Lurie, right? That's him. Yeah. I always came for you with Loria that used to own the Expos, but if you're him and your quarterback's running down the tunnel and he almost gets killed by people leaning over on a rail that was held together with a very loose zip tie, then you're like, okay, well, why are we even taking our team into this building that is dilapidated and falling apart?
You know what's crazy about that? That is not an old stadium.
No, I know.
It's not like it's like what RFK was, an old and ancient relic, and it was actually in the long run a better place, but it was obviously, I've been there a couple of different times, it was bad too. Was Josh Gordon or Justin Blackmon a bigger bust?
I mean, Justin Blackmon never played.
He never played, did he?
Close.
He never even played. They're both about the same age.
Josh Gordon at least played. Yeah. I mean, played, more than past a year that Justin Blackmon made it?
Blackmon, he played one full year, had 93 catches, 1,280 yards and 6 touchdowns, but he got suspended in 13 and never played more than 4 games.
We at least know where Josh Gordon is now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't make light of Justin Blackmon's alcoholism and situation he faced back then, but I don't know what the follow-up to that has been all these years later. At least with Josh Gordon, I know that, he's at least, still battling sobriety, but he's, doing well enough to be able to keep popping up in these leagues, and he seems to be doing okay in the XFL, last I checked, unless something's happened in the last couple weeks or so. But, yeah, I'd definitely say Josh Gordon.
Justin Blackmon's last 2 years at Oklahoma State, we break here. He had 233 catches for 3,404 yards and 38 touchdowns at Oklahoma State. Unbelievable. And was highly drafted. It just not work out after his first year. When we come back, Max Olson, theathletic.com, his thoughts about the transfer portal window opening up earlier. How does that affect, or how does it affect anybody one way or the other? And also about the number of visits and more. Max Olson, next, 365 Sports.
Your springtime experience begins during the Jeep Celebration event this month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Save big and get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with total values up to $5,500 on both 2 and 3 row options. Or if that isn't enough, get a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $5,000 in total values. Plus, first responders get an extra $500. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the new custom Jeep of your dreams at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now. College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession? We
selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef, and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. Max today at 3:30. Grayson Grunhafer around the corner. And again, Brigham Young's Kalani Sitake in about 40 minutes. Max, what are your thoughts about the transfer portal window? Was May 1 through May 15th. They moved it up to April 15th to April 30th, and they did it like just recently. How does that benefit some and maybe hurt others who are still practicing into next Saturday with their spring games?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. They made that change back in October, and I think that one just kind of slipped through the cracks during the season. And there wasn't really maybe a lot of reasoning given for why they made that switch. I think it's interesting how that kind of collides with spring game schedules. I mean, I looked at this last night, and there's a few teams like Oregon that don't play their spring game till April 29th. So I imagine that they're probably going to be losing some players off their roster before they even play that game. And so, but at the same time, honestly, coaches probably kind of like it. They probably like that. Maybe let's make that window even smaller for these players to leave. But I think it will lead to some players making decisions probably even before their spring games about whether they're ready to move on. And it's going to be interesting to see just how much movement happens in this 2-week period. Since the window closed in mid-January, we've really only seen like 100 players go in the portal as grad transfers over the past 3 months. So there's a lot of underclassmen that just haven't been able to make a move yet and are certainly have a chance to act on those thoughts right now.
Max, reading your column today, I kind of thought it was interesting that both not Gus Malzahn, he's at UCF now, Hugh Freeze and Billy Napier kind of answered the question about going after a quarterback in the portal the same way, and that we'd like to, but they're trying to set reasonable expectations on it. But do you get the feeling that they are saying we wish that there were more people in there for us because they probably have more questions than answers as they wrap up spring practice?
Yeah, I think if you're in this spot at the end of spring and you're saying we really hope somebody can come in and be our QB1 and be consistent and a difference maker and all that stuff over the guys we've got, that's a tough spot to be in because you kind of don't know who's going to pop up here. What veteran quarterbacks could become available over these next 2 weeks. And honestly, guys, when you're in that kind of spot, it's no wonder these schools tamper because you kind of want to guarantee that you can go get somebody that can really help you. And so it's going to be very interesting to see, Florida coming out of their spring game last night. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of excitement about what they have with Graham Mertz and Jack Miller. And, I think Auburn's got two pretty talented quarterbacks in Robbie Ashford and TJ Finley, who've both started games. But I think the concern for Hugh Freeze is, can either of those guys be a consistent passer and can, throw your way to a game in the SEC? And so if they can find somebody a little bit better, I'm sure those two schools are going to be fighting over them.
Max, a lot of other good spring games going on this weekend. I know that Texas is coming up, and obviously not a quarterback battle there with Quinn Ewers being the guy, but man, there just seems to be a lot of positivity flowing out of Austin, and it's not the typical, off-season banging of the drum and false hope or anything like that. I mean, there's some real meat on the bone, it seems like, for this Texas team, even having to replace guys like Bijan Robinson. What are your thoughts on Sark and company as they get ready for next season?
Yeah, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of oohs and ahs when Arch Manning's out there throwing passes, even though people, I think, are generally optimistic that Quinn Ewers can take a big step here in his second year as the starter. I think the thing with Texas that, and look, it feels like a broken record. We're saying this over again. We said this during Charlie Strong's tenure and definitely during Tom Herman's tenure. But this recruiting class they just signed, they definitely brought in some early enrollees from that group that are going to start right away. Like Anthony Hill and Jonte Cook and some of these players they've picked up. I think the young talent reload is definitely underway there. And yeah, you're going to have to stack a few more classes to actually be competitive in the SEC. But I think that there's no excuses for Texas to get worse this year, even without Bijan and Roschon and a couple NFL players moving on. I think certainly they've got the firepower offensively to be pretty prolific this year, and they need to take a big step forward in year 3 under Sark.
Max, there's 14 teams, so it's not easy just off the top of the head to think about it. But which ones among the 14, a couple of quarterback battles you think might be the most interesting? I know Manning, Ewers, although I think we all believe that Ewers will be named that starter and how that works out. But is there one or two others? Or are there one or two others that come to mind?
Among which 14?
Among the Big 12 teams. The Big 12 or yeah.
Yeah, among the Big 12 teams. Yeah. I think in terms of quarterback battles, it seems like some of these are not going to be that surprising. Like, I think Alan Bowman's probably going to be the guy at Oklahoma State. They've got some other players with starting experience, and obviously we haven't seen him play in a few years. And so, like, we'll see on that one. But I think that just his experience, I think you feel pretty good about what he can bring to the table there after the time he put in at Michigan and certainly starting at Texas Tech. I think Iowa State feels good about Hunter Deckers. They've got a very talented true freshman in J.J. Cole, but I think they feel pretty good that Hunter Deckers is going to improve quite a bit off of the struggles of last season. And gosh, I don't know, guys. I think it's on. Is there one I'm blanking on here? Like, I think Cincinnati's an interesting one.
Yep,
They brought in a bunch of quarterbacks. I think it was interesting that obviously had a coaching staff change, and so you've got fresh eyes on that situation. But between Evan Prater and Ben Bryant, like, they had veteran guys coming back, and they still chose to take Emory Jones from Arizona State, who didn't do too much with the Sun Devils and didn't look that great in his 1 year as a starter at Florida. So that competition and kind of what the future is there, you certainly wonder, who emerges there and who leads.
Yeah, I think that, Oklahoma State might be interesting, but the quarterback is Michigan, and I forget his name every time.
Alan Bowman.
Alan Bowman has got skins on the wall. Even though the young freshman at Tech played well last year, we know that Shuck finished so strong. Chapin ahead of Sawyer Robertson, and should
is that like what's like the deal in there in Waco? Is it like kind of 50-50 or a pretty good edge for Chapin?
I think it's more 50-50 than Chapin having an edge. I think it's closer. I'd still go Chapin starts the year, but I wouldn't rule out that if he doesn't, perform up the test, that they're not throwing Robertson in there pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, I think that because of last year when they made the decision and they were pretty much, it was Chapin and that was it. No matter the clamoring for anyone else, I think Craig's right. Although Dave Aranda said earlier that even though Sawyer Robertson gets a lot of attention, his personality and his energy like a young puppy, that he feels like Chapin has taken on everything he needed to, including his passing ability, and it's a lot to do with Matt Powledge. In practice, they go, make a call, and it's making him sharper under the gun because he's always been a good practice player, but perhaps not a practice player that carried it over to a game.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and I think you've got some younger quarterbacks in this. Obviously, this time last year, none of us were talking about Jalen Daniels, right? Like, you can
absolutely
these guys, if you put them in the right situation and the right talent around them and a great OC and all that, like, you can see some big leaps, and I think we'll see some in the Big 12 this year. I think Garrett Green showed some flashes for West Virginia late in the year. Like I said, I think Deckers has got the potential if he can really kind of put it all together. And you mentioned the Texas Tech one. I think it's interesting. They love Tyler Shuck when he's healthy. I think they really feel like he's a pretty darn good one, and I think he even won all of his starts last season when he was right. But man, you saw at times in Big 12 play last year the long-term potential and upside with Baron Morton is super exciting.
Max, who do you think, now that we have the NFL draft here in a couple weeks, is the most irreplaceable player that's left the Big 12?
Well, there's not another Deuce Vaughn. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that, in terms of heart and soul of your team and all that, like, I think Kansas State's going to be fine at running back. They brought in a transfer from Florida State. They've got some good young backups, so I think can step up there. But just in terms of, like, how much Deuce Vaughn scares you when you play against them, I think that one is pretty tough to replace, along with his teammate Felix Anadike-Uzomah. So I think, the defending champs figuring out a way to get other guys to step up and not just like be like good starters, but like captains and leaders and stuff. I think that challenge is going to be interesting for K-State.
So tell me about the story you did on the lineman. Who was the high school player, a receiver, I think it is, from Idaho? Yeah. Is that correct? Gatlin Bear?
Gatlin Bear, that's right. Yeah, I wrote about him this week on The Athletic. This is a kid from Burley, Idaho, middle of nowhere, Idaho, who comes from a track family and is a guy who's on the rise in the recruiting rankings this spring. He went down to Texas Relays a couple weeks ago and ran a 10.18 in the 100-meter as a high school junior. He's an absolute freak and a guy that I think 24/7's even put him up into like their top 50 for this 24 class. Super interesting kid who is looking at, some of the Texas schools are in the mix on him now, looking at Nebraska, Michigan, Oregon, but also a kid who, in addition to like that really interesting talent, he plans to take an LDS mission for 2 years and won't play college football until 2026. And so that's made for an interesting recruitment for a kid from the middle of nowhere, Idaho, who is trying to figure out the right place to go and is obviously, now that his name is blown up more, getting a lot of interesting NIL offers.
That's amazing. Yeah. So 2026 would be the first year he would play college ball because of his 2 years on the trip, his mission?
Yeah. He wants to enroll at a college in the spring of 26.
Okay.
Max, what were your thoughts on Lincoln Riley's acquisition of Cliff Kingsbury, bringing him into the fold at USC?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things you've seen Nick Saban and a lot of these coaches, Georgia and other coaches do it. When you can go get the buyout guy and basically pay him nothing to really help you out because his last job's paid for him. I think it's an easy win. And gosh, for Cliff Kingsbury to team up with Lincoln Riley. First of all, I'm sure Mike Leach would have loved to see that. I think that's amazing. To bring him in as a senior offensive analyst. It's kind of scary for everybody else in that league. I mean, you already got the Heisman winner coming back. They've, continued to add great pieces on offense. But to just have Cliff throwing play suggestions out there and trying to help further the development of maybe the best player in college football, just such a no-brainer move for Lincoln and for Cliff and kind of dipping his toe back into the college game.
Max, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time as always, making room for us, and we always make room for you, Max Olson, columnist, college football writer, senior writer for theathletic.com. I saw this from Adam Rittenberg on ESPN.com. Notre Dame added Sam Hartman, hell of a player, right, from Wake Forest, but it says the path to the starting job is far from guaranteed because several factors, including improving challenger in Tyler, is it Buckner?
Yeah.
Notre Dame is not expected to name a starter during spring practice. Game concludes on April 22nd. Could see that compete into fall camp. Do you believe that?
Yeah, and I think part of it is, Buckner played well in the bowl. He came back and played in the bowl game, I believe, and he played well before he got hurt. So he's going to be the starter when Sam Hartman's gone, and you don't want to lose him just because of a one-year hitch, I think, for Sam Hartman, who's only going to be there this season. And look, Sam Hartman's got some injury concerns, in the past. The blood clot issues are cleared up, but that's something that can be recurring and come back. So I think that Marcus Freeman just wants to make sure that he's solid at that position going forward so they don't put all their eggs in Sam Hartman's basket. Although I will tell you this, and this is not a knock on Tyler Buckner, I think that when Sam Hartman gets going for Notre Dame this season, they're going to be scary as hell on offense because that dude is a gamer. I don't want to face him. He is, if you're within 10 points in the fourth quarter, and he's going to just claw your eyes out at that position. So yeah, I would not want to go against him in any reasonable way. He's really good.
Well, I like to hear that. That's kind of claw your eyes out.
Look. Watch Wake Forest with Sam Hartman in close games. He is as good of a leader on the field as you can imagine. And I don't know if he's going to be an NFL quarterback. Look, if you asked me, if you made me the GM of the team with the number 1 overall pick next year and said, I heard you, singing this Valentine song to Sam Hartman, would you take him over Caleb Williams? I'd be like, shut your face. No, yeah. I'm taking Caleb Williams. But I would take Sam Hartman anytime, if I had to in college
When
football.
we come back, we're going to hear from Grayson Grundhoefer. His thoughts as Baylor is in yet another week of their spring workouts and drills. He and Craig answer a lot of questions about football, but other stories in sports, athletics at Baylor with the Bearcast on Tuesdays. Grayson Grundhafer, his thoughts about the quarterback battle next on 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. I normally tell you about what Dr. Petty can do when it comes to helping your testosterone levels if they're too low. He can get you blood work. He will take care of the blood work. He will get the results. And if your testosterone is too low, he can put you in a program to help you gain more of what you may be missing, whether it's your sex drive or sleep or your focus or energy, whatever it might be. But I got to tell you, he's also been pretty amazing. I've told you those stories about my brothers and their battle with prostate, and one of them is worse than the other when it comes to his battle. And Dr. Petty has been on me about making sure that I get my PSA checked. So are others, including Dr. Milburn, Dr. Hines, in the Baylor Hillcrest Hospital system too. But Dr. Petty's been really helping me out. I just had the MRI on Monday. Everything is clear. There are no lesions. There's no mass. But he's putting me on some antibiotics to help me with an enlarged prostate. And you know, he's just been really great during this process because I've been a little bit nervous about it. So yes, he can help you with your testosterone levels, if it's too low. But he also is a family doctor. He can still help you with whatever else you might need. When he does that blood test, it's not just the testosterone, but the PSA, cholesterol count, and much, much more. Dr. Kent Petty, PettyClinicLowT.com.
Dozens of 2023 Buicks are on the lot and priced to move at Richard Carr Buick, a prestigious luxury SUV without the luxury price. Experience the quiet escape and premium drive of a Buick SUV on a test drive today at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get a 2023 Buick Encore GX at 3.9% for 60 months, plus save $1,000 dealer discount or save $3,500 on a 2023 Buick Enclave Avenir in stock. See dealer for details.
Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of SicEm365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson Grundhafer, co-host of the Bearcast with Craig Smoak Tuesdays, also football analyst, recruiting coordinator for SicEm365.com, joins us on 365 Sports with Paul and Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Grayson, thank you very much. So I had a chance to visit with Dave Aranda. You've been at all the practices. He kind of mentioned that Blake Shapen has stepped up the way he should, that he was always a good practice quarterback, but maybe didn't carry that enough into the games. Has Sawyer Robertson allowed that to maybe be something he's better at?
I think that's possible. You know, when we went back and kind of went through Sawyer Robertson's recruitment and kind of, you know, going through the reasons why Baylor would bring in a transfer quarterback and everything like that. Obviously, the Austin Novosad part of it, you know, played a role in them going out and getting Sawyer Robertson. But, you know, I think that for Blake, this is a time where I feel like he knew that what he put on film last year and what he did last year did not equate to a guy who was locked and loaded as for sure the starter for the 2023 season. And so I think he's taken that as a challenge. And it's a situation where I don't think he believes he played his best football. I don't think the Baylor staff thinks he played his best football. But I think there's a lot of confidence on both sides that Blake can rebound really nicely. And I think it's a situation where you bring in Sawyer Robertson, you know there's competition, you know there's a really talented quarterback who's competing against you, and it's time to rise, you know, to the forefront. And so for Blake, obviously he needs to be more consistent and actually, you know, translate what he does in practice to the field. But I think a big part of what happened last year was he wasn't quite ready to be the leader that I think he could be this year. And that's a huge growing, you know, part of the growth process for any quarterback is taking that leadership role. And I think last year, you know, he won a battle over a guy in Gary Bohannon who was a really good leader. So I think it was kind of hard for him to establish himself in that short period of time during the summer and the fall. But I think so far this spring, I think he's made that more of a focus. And to be honest, Sawyer Robertson has as well. I think both these guys are good leaders for this football team and guys who have really embraced challenge of competing against each other.
Grayson, how much rope do you think that Blake Shapen will get, though?
I mean, Paul, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to be the starter week 1. So I don't think that there is any rope right now. Now, I will say this. I think whoever does win the starting job, if it's Blake or Sawyer, I think they'll be given every opportunity to keep that job. They did it last year. They allowed Blake to play through struggles, even though, you know, he was pretty good for the most part. And the defense, you know, he had moments in games that weren't good, and those were very glaring. But we also have to remember, guys, the defense was not good last year. So they were playing a lot of, you know, keep-ups. They were playing some catch-up, and that's hard on any quarterback. But last year they allowed him to play through it. I think whoever the quarterback is this year, at least in the first half of the year before the bye week, they're going to, you know, go up against some really, really good teams. And I think we'll probably know if whoever the starter is, if he's going to last through those 6 games, because if the quarterback doesn't play well, there's a great chance that Baylor goes 2-4. But if the quarterback is playing well and they start off 5-1 or 6-0 or something like that, then I think you're feeling really, really good about the position.
Grayson, we also heard from Dallas Baker and the wide receivers. That's an interesting group. They return, you know, a lot of their top guys numbers-wise, but a lot of inexperience. They lost some guys in the transfer portal who kind of had a little bit of experience there. Guys like Jalen Ellis, who you had a lot of, you know, hope for. But, man, Monterey Baldwin, who admittedly has to get bigger and stronger to remain healthy, and then just a bunch of guys. I mean, what do you think of what you heard from Dallas Baker and just the approach of that room? And are you buying into the, committee success that this room could have?
I mean, I think Dallas Baker is really confident in the group. And, I mean, he basically said that. He has a ton of confidence in the guys in that room. I think when I sit back and look at it, I see about 6 guys that I really, really trust in the receiver room. And I think those 6 are pretty obvious. You know, if you go through them, it's Baldwin, Neighbors, Winfield, Keytron Jackson, Hal Presley, Josh Cameron. Those 6 guys, I think, have established themselves. There's some other guys that are intriguing as well, don't get me wrong. But those 6 guys, I think, really are leading that room. And I'm fully expecting Arkansas transfer Keytron Jackson to have a massive impact on this team. I've been really high on him since he was in high school. He went to Arkansas, didn't quite get the playing time that he wanted, but a very, very talented receiver and a guy who I think does a lot of things that Baylor really needed from the receiver position last year, such as getting open on the outside and then creating yards after the catch. Those are things that they didn't really have last year, and he's going to bring that to the table. And I expect him to be, borderline all Big 12 type performer this season as long as the offense continues to hum. And then you also have, explosive playmakers. Monterey Baldwin, Jordan Neighbors, very explosive. You have an elite blocker in Josh Cameron and a guy who's shown reliable hands to make tough catches. And then Hal Presley, who's kind of a wild card, who's shown flashes of great potential, but I think it's just consistency for him on the outside. But, as I sit here, I see 6 guys that I think should be able to make any of the quarterbacks pretty successful this season.
Grayson, if the wide receivers and DBs or corners went one-on-one, and that's what they do, the position drills, et cetera, but are you getting any feedback on whether the secondary is any better?
I think the secondary right now is probably my biggest area of concern through the spring. And I don't really think that's all that surprising. I mean, they lost so many pieces from the team last year. I mean, if you just think about it, Devin Neal, Lorando Johnson, Al Walcott, Lorando Johnson, Mark Milton. I mean, those are 5 guys that played a ton of football for Baylor, and now you're replacing them with a bunch of guys who haven't played a lot of snaps during their time at Baylor. And then also Devin Lemire is out right now during the spring. So, I mean, literally no guys who have any meaningful playing time really are out there. And so I think they're going through an adjustment process. I think there's a lot of growth that this unit is going to take through, spring ball and then heading into the summer. But I also think it's a position that could use adding some older guys. I don't think Baylor's going to, skip on taking a cornerback or maybe even a safety out of the transfer portal if they have the numbers for it. And I think that's coming up tomorrow, actually. The transfer portal opens again. So I expect those 2 positions to be looked at heavily just because it's a young group. They're very talented. But I think this spring we're kind of finding out that there's a lot of room to grow, and they probably need a little bit more experience.
So, Grayson, the transfer portal opens tomorrow. Baylor has a game next Saturday. That cuts about half of that window in half from when they'll be practicing or having a spring game. Does that mean that they're up against the wall, have to make a decision, but can't really do that until after they're done?
I think they have a pretty good idea of how many spots they currently have, and you're obviously not going to be able to recruit past those spots. You're going to have to recruit the number that you have, and then after the spring game, if more guys enter, then that just gives you, more opportunities to go out and look for potential targets. But you are right. A lot of teams have finished their spring ball already, and it's kind of perfect for those programs because what guys are leaving. Guys that pretty much are going to make decisions in the next 14 days. It's not going to be cut in half for them. So it is an advantage for those programs. But I think Baylor and the staff pretty much knows what they need to do, the positions they need to target. So right now, I think it's more so just about trying to figure out exactly how many spots they have following the spring game.
Go ahead, Craig.
How will the unlimited official visits affect Baylor positively or negatively, or both?
Good question, and something that I've thought about a little bit and trying to figure out, okay, so going back, how many times did Baylor really benefit from a guy taking his final official visit to Baylor? And there really haven't been a ton of instances where a guy used all 4 of his official visits and then took a visit to Baylor late and then decided to switch to Baylor. So for me, I don't think it's going to impact Baylor, too much negatively. I know a lot of people will say, well, what if at the very end of the process the guy takes an official visit somewhere? But I would say most guys who go through their process committed to Baylor have official visits open. And so I don't think this is going to matter too much in the long run. But I think for recruits, it's going to be very nice because you might as well take as many official visits as you possibly can. I think that gives Baylor more kind of ammunition to say, hey, you might as well come and take an official visit. We're not wasting one. And maybe that allows Baylor to get more guys on campus. So I actually think it's a slight positive, but overall I don't think it's going to be a massive impact towards Baylor positively or negatively.
Now, I have one more question for you. This is something we've kind of touched on the podcast from time to time, but just the other day, I believe it was Kobe Black from Connolly High School released his top 11, and there is no Baylor in his top 11. What is the disconnect right now, you think? Connolly's been pumping out guys. Midway's had their share over the years, but what do you think the disconnect kind of is locally, it seems like, where there's some top prospects? Like, this is a 5-star cornerback. TCU's on the list. Texas is on the list. A&M's on the list. What's the disconnect with the local stars and Baylor right now in your mind?
So I actually think that Baylor's done a pretty good job in the local area. I mean, you go look at Catalina, they've landed some guys from there, Devontae Tizino, Brendan Bett. I think they've done a fine job in those areas. But what I will say is, when a guy becomes a 5-star recruit or a high 4-star type guy, it becomes one of those situations where is it really worth it to put all this time and all these resources into recruiting a guy when the chances of you landing them are extremely low? And a lot of those guys, honestly, don't necessarily want to stay in the state of Texas. And I know Kobe's got a list of 11. That's great. That's 11 schools, though. So, I mean, there's a lot of schools that are out of the state. There's a lot of schools that might be set up better NIL-wise. And I think that's just the reality of it. So Baylor's going to pick and choose their battles. Now, when Baylor really, really wants a guy, we've seen them continue to recruit that guy for a really long time, such as Austin Novosad. He was the guy who got offers from pretty much everyone towards the end of his recruitment. Baylor kept recruiting him, kept him committed. It didn't end up going well, but I think in the long run, Baylor's got to pick and choose those battles. And honestly, when they don't, try to continue recruiting a top 100 guy in the entire nation, I think sometimes that honestly does make sense because they can spend those resources on other guys who maybe have a better chance of ending up at Baylor, and maybe guys who Baylor sees as comparable or at least somewhat comparable to those higher end guys across Central Texas.
Okay, a somewhat off, just a random question. Dave Aranda compared Sawyer Robertson to a puppy that he and the Aranda family have just had. They have a new puppy. And the family was out of town, so he had to deal with the puppy. And you know how puppies are. There's never enough attention for them, and they can get to be a little bit annoying as much as they are cute. That's kind of how he described Sawyer Robertson's personality, infectious, contagious type attitude. What kind of puppy would he be?
Wow. That's, I mean, so I'm just guessing a random puppy here, huh? I'll go with, how about a golden retriever?
All right.
I think that sounds
all right.
right.
Okay. I'm not sure what kind of puppy it is. I didn't ask him, but I just thought that was interesting because he's got that infectious personality, but that doesn't mean he's the guy because we know Blake Shapen seems like he's taken on the challenge. Thanks for your time, Grayson, as always. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Grayson Grundhafer with us, 365 Sports, SicEm365.com, co-host of the Bearcast, and also recruiting coordinator for what we do. So there we are with that. When we come back, Kalani Sitake, the head coach at Brigham Young, he has become a friend of the show. We have had him on probably, 3 to 4 times, 5 times since the announcement of the Big 12, the Baylor games the last couple of years, the offseason, even last year. They had a bad midsection of their year, turned it around to go 8-5 and win their bowl game against SMU. Kalani Sitake and Brigham Young wrap up their spring drills today, and he is next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ted Teague, the general manager, and AJ is the one and the salesperson or the coordinator that helped me find the car that I bought there in, July or May of 2020. Right now, a 2023 Dodge Durango has $5,000 in total values. There are supplies, but they are getting low at times because the demand is there, and then they'll get the lot again constantly full with cars, trucks, and SUVs. Ram Trucks always honored for what they do. And speaking of that, Ram Truck Month, the 2023 Ram 1500 Crew Cab loan starts $4,250 in values plus 4.9% financing for 72 months. Also, there is the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee, the limited $5,500 in total values during the Jeep Celebration event that includes the 2023 Jeep Compass Latitude, $2,000 in total values plus 5.9% financing for 72 months. There is even the 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star with 10% off MSRP or take 1.9% financing for 72 months. Great selection, cleanest, nicest pre-owned vehicles, and they're always looking for more if you want to trade up. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available. plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We're now joined by BYU football coach Kalani Sitake of 365 Sports. And I would think coaches always think something else could be done or accomplished, but your last day of practice today, do you feel like you've pretty much gotten everything you've needed, at least for the most part, done?
I'm going to tell you what every head coach is going to tell you, and that's no, but I mean, yeah, for spring football, what we want to get out of it, this is a different approach that we've had in years past because it's a different team and a different situation. So way more live work and way more physical than we've ever had in spring football. We put quarterbacks live. We tackled them to the ground. We did things like that put basically a bunch of guys at risk. But I don't know how to prep our guys for the game if we don't spar and if we don't do it the right way. So that's what we did. I feel like we did it and got away with avoiding injury. Obviously got one more practice today, but the game of football is a physical and violent one, and that's just sometimes you just have to risk it to get better. And I felt like that was a wise decision for our program to make, and I feel really good about the 14 practices. I feel good about the 15th one coming up as well.
Your defensive coordinator, you know him in Jay Hill because of your time at Utah, and that was one of the biggest changes, I guess, in your offseason. What does he bring to the table that perhaps you felt you needed?
Well, I think we're on the same page with everything. You're kind of raised in the same system, speak the same language in terms of football and defense. He also brings a bunch of experience as a special teams coordinator when we were there. So he's done that. He was with us when we went from the transition from the Mountain West to the Pac-12, and now he'll be with us as we make this transition from the independent school into the Big 12. So we really feel good about the approach and the experience. I mean, it's kind of weird. We're older, way older than we used to be, but I feel like that experience that he brings to the table, he brings to the team, the things that he's done as a leader. He's been a head coach before, so he's done this. He's put a lot of guys in the league from his time as a head coach at Weber State, and I just really like his energy, the things that he brings, the staff that he put together. You're really impressed with him. So I've seen a significant difference in our team and the way that they've taken to him, and I look forward to seeing him continue to get us ready for the season as we go through the summer and go through fall camp.
Coach, you mentioned making everything live. Is that maybe something you feel you need to do more of now that you have, instead of guys who are juniors and seniors that have come up and learned in your system and come there, a lot of your juniors and seniors, including, one of your new quarterbacks, Keaton Slovis, are transfers. So does that help maybe accelerate their insertion into your system a little bit better?
Yeah, and there's a lot of film of seeing Keaton Slovis when he was live during the season, but there's not a lot of film that we have on our guys running our system, so we want to see them run our system and see if the timing works. I think sometimes quarterbacks get this nice protection, and then defenses get somebody down by just touching them. Well, I haven't seen anyone get tackled by someone just slapping their rear end, so that doesn't work as well, but all the other stuff works really nicely. It was a deliberate approach from us as a coaching staff to say that we need to get better at the physical part of it, and that's breaking tackles, avoiding tackles on the offensive side, protecting the football, and then on defense, making tackles and beating blocks. So there's only one way to do it, and that's when you get live. I think the O-line, D-line, when they're in the trenches, that seems live all the time, even if they're not tackling. But but we're missing something when we're not putting the other guys live, and sometimes that's the stuff that helps you win games, and that's the decision that we had to make, and how I think it's easier when you're having competition to be able to evaluate them when things are live. It's hard to do it when you're assuming that the person got him down and you're assuming that he had the protection. I think it's important that we kind of put it out there so that the guys can be evaluated and get great competition and then get our depth chart correct as well.
Kalani, I've always thought, and there's these terms now, the Power Five or the Group of Five or whatever, and I've always thought of Brigham Young, and I think that's true, that Brigham Young has always been Power Five, even though independent or a part of any conference. Are you, in your opinion, because of the age of your roster, because of where you guys and who you've played, where you've been before, perhaps more, I guess, ready, prepared for the Big 12 than maybe not against the incoming three along with you, but perhaps among the four that are joining the conference?
Well, I can't say comparison to the others that are joining the conference. I think those are some wonderful programs and well-coached teams. And so I can speak for what we're doing. I don't know. We'll see when we get there, but I know one thing. We played against a high number of P5 teams throughout the years. I mean, I'm going on my 8th year here, and seven years as a head coach. We've seen a lot of P5 programs from a lot of different conferences, and we've had success and we've struggled. And so now we're at the point now that the position that I wanted when I got the job is let's play as many of them as we can, so we see how we can improve. And now that we're going to the conference, it's there. We have this opportunity. There's going to be some familiarity with everything that maybe some natural rivalries will occur now that we play somebody every year. But I know one thing: once we get there, it's going to be way different. It's not however you want to plan it, but we have to get our program in position to be able to adjust to whatever shows up. I mean, that's if we were able to predict it on paper who's going to win the Big 12 championship, then it wouldn't be as fun, right? So I think that's how we have to be in a position where I want our team to be at our best and make sure that we prepare and perform at our best. And that's going to be, we're going to have to be physical. That's just part of the game. We're going to have to be a physical team. And when we get there, I think we'll have a better chance if we can be physical. Now, saying that, it's not like the other teams in the Big 12 aren't going to be physical. They're very tough. You see it on film. Even the incoming teams are really tough. So that's the exciting part about the season, that there's going to be a high level of competition. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see the matchups. There's a huge sense of urgency from our end to get our team ready. And we don't know what to expect, but I do have some experience of going through that already from a Mountain West team into a P5 Pac-12 team schedule. And so we're doing what we think is right, and maybe some things that we think we could have improved on from that experience the first time when we were at Utah. Now trying to have that approach to here going in with BYU. And it really helps to have Jay Hill and Aaron Roderick, who were with me on staff when we made that transition, now here with me at BYU as we go through entering the Big 12.
How much of the last 2 years have you spent thinking about it, or do you just think about it when it's real this year and preparing for it? Because you have to do what's on your schedule before you get to the Big 12, but, you do want to, prepare for what's coming, especially recruiting-wise and everything else like that.
Oh, from the announcement and the invite, that was always in the back of our minds. We knew the Big 12 was going to happen. We knew that was not now but later. But you also know that when you're recruiting and you're doing that, you have to prep for that time to enter the conference. So that there was a deliberate approach to it, and all of the things that were happening to make sure that we get our team ready. Now we can try to be as ready as we can, and then you still got to go through the schedule. And that, again, I just want our guys to be excited about it, and then the opportunity to perform in this conference. We're really excited to be partnered up in this conference with all the different teams. I know a bunch of the coaches in the conference, and have opportunities to meet all of them, and I'm just really impressed with them. Just what they do with their programs. You see it on film, but even in person, when I talk to them, really impressed with them. I'm really impressed with the leadership that I see from the Big 12. I think they're innovative and creative. They find different ways to do things. They're active and they're always working. I had the honor of meeting a bunch of the leaders in the Big 12, and I've been nothing but impressed with them. And so whatever they decide to do from here on out and whatever decisions they've made, I've been 100% behind it, including inviting us to the conference. So I feel really positive about everything that's happening. My job is to make sure our team's ready to roll by the time we enter the conference and we play that first game in the 2023 season.
Kalani, I know you have a practice to get to. I have one more question. Paul might as well. But Keaton Slovis is on campus. We alluded to him earlier. Is it his job, or is there a competition that you will wait to see how things work out today, the game, and moving? Or you've already had your game, but moving forward into the offseason.
Yeah, Keaton's a front runner. I mean, I think he's been doing some great things in spring and his experience, but we have a bunch of guys behind him that are hungry trying to take his spot. And so nothing's ever set in stone. You know, a lot of improvement can be made from the summer. And so I like that someone could possibly be written in pencil at a certain spot, but I like the competition to try to beat him out. I only know one way, and that's to play the best. So by the time we get to August, if guys have done the right things and made the right sacrifices and worked the right way, I got to play the best person. I don't care who they are, what their name is. I just want to make sure that that's the case. And if that's the case, Keaton better stay ahead of it. And he knows the guys in that room that are trying to get that position. And you know, great competition, that only brings one thing. That's all our guys being the best we can. I mentioned earlier that our team needs to be the best we can. That means even in depth, we have to have the best backup quarterback, the best third string quarterback, all the way down to the scout team quarterback. All of that stuff matters, and the only way you get that done is you've got to compete and make sure that people know that I as a head coach and our staff as a football staff will play the best person, and that competition doesn't ever end.
Coach, the last thing before we let you go, it occurs to me, though, that in your very DNA as a football player and a coach, you were a fullback, and nothing but live practice makes sense to a fullback, right?
Well, for fullbacks, it is live. Everything's live.
Yeah.
You know? So, that's like we have to do all of it. I think the fullbacks kind of got tricked into it. If I would have just gained a little bit more weight, I could have easily been a D lineman and O lineman. I could have done the simplified or the modified running. But instead, because you're a fullback, you have to do all the running that the running backs and the receivers do, and then you have to do all that physical part of banging like the O lineman, D lineman do. So we're a rare breed, but you look at it, the H-backs, fullbacks, they're different, built differently. And I'm just lucky that I had my opportunities as a fullback to be a captain for Lavelle Edwards, and now as a former fullback, I get to be the head coach. So that fullback mentality is still there, but I think. Hopefully the team could take after that mentality, but we do know that we need quarterbacks and these fancy speed guys out there, and the big uglies up front too. But the fullbacks are the true hybrids that have to do it all, So I always have I always lean a little bit towards the fullbacks. I always want to recognize the fullbacks on the other team. So when we shake hands, I always try to go find them, say hi to them and stuff like that. And I think that stuff matters to me. That's just how it is. When I got the head job here, our first game, I don't know if this was wise of me, but I wanted to make sure we were on the goal line. I just wanted to make sure that the first touchdown was made by the fullback. Because who knows if it'll ever happen. So we got that first one. I mean, I'm a fullback. I played in 50 games as a fullback, and I scored one touchdown. Yeah. It's a thankless job, but we love it, and we're a different breed. But hopefully that mentality will be able to allow those other fullbacks out there in the world to go have some success and enjoy their lives.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Coach. Thanks for fighting for the breed of fullbacks. Absolutely. Good luck with your last practice. Enjoy whatever offseason you do get, and I know we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for the time. We're excited to be in the Big 12. Thank you.
That's Coach Kalani Sitake, BYU, here on 365 Sports.
Yeah, he's a good dude. And one of the great things about the changes in the Big 12 is getting to know Kalani Sitake, but also the media relations guys, including Brett Pine. And he has been phenomenal with us, or what Houston's done. We had Holgerson on, of course, earlier in the week, and we've had Malzahn, and we've had Satterfield at Cincinnati. It's been a lot of fun to get to know those particular athletic departments. All right, when we come back, Steven Johnson, he covers TCU. And we had Sonny Dykes on last week, but Steven Johnson with an update on the Frogs in their spring as they are winding things down. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. They will find out what bothers you, what hurts you, what is creating pain or causing pain, because their MRI machine is that good. And so if your doctor or someone suggests you get an MRI, I'm telling you right now, there's no reason to think about anywhere else but Ideal MRI for a lot of reasons. One, their technology, what they have, their machine is phenomenal. I was in it on Monday to get an MRI of my prostate, and it was phenomenal. What Marcus did and how he helped me feel comfortable is amazing, because I am claustrophobic. Teresa, Stephanie at the front desk, Dr. Maxey, when he gave me the results, all of that has been fantastic. And then, of course, the budget, your wallet, your checkbook, your whatever you have left in the bank. $497 is what it costs or less every single time. For me on Monday, it was $400. They will help you with insurance, filing that to maybe knock the price down even more. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace. Thank them. I did, because of what they did for me on Monday was make me comfortable with something that can be uncomfortable with getting inside of an MRI machine. In the Central Texas marketplace, IdealMRI.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 3 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Steven Johnson. Last year was his first year covering TCU. What a run it was with what they did. Obviously with football, getting to the championship game, Big 12 championship game, to lose to Kansas State, but got into the game, beat Michigan in between. Joins us on 365 Sports. Steven, thank you very much for your time. We were able to have Sonny Dykes on about 2 weeks ago, but it's been a couple of weeks, so there's probably some new treads on the tires. What has been going on as far as Chandler Morris, Hoover, the quarterback race or competition?
Well, it still remains to be seen how much of a competition this actually is, because in my mind, Chandler has taken every single snap with the ones this spring. So until Hoover starts getting some reps with the ones, I guess I'll refrain from really calling it a competition. But what you've seen from those two quarterbacks, I think, is both of them getting a lot more comfortable with the new offensive team under Kendall Browse. Last Friday, Hoover had a practice where he threw 3 touchdowns, and then Morris came back the next day on Monday and threw 3 touchdowns of his own. So they're getting more comfortable. I like what I've seen. The offense is asking them to be more mobile. There are a lot more. The quick game has been a bigger emphasis. I think that could really fit the skill set of a guy like Chandler who would like to get the ball out of his hands pretty quickly and distribute the ball. So they look pretty good, I think, as camp has progressed. I think they feel good about Chandler being the guy, but I do think TC will probably go into the portal and grab another body just because having 2 scholarship quarterbacks, man, that's playing with fire.
Steven, how is the offense different from Garrett Riley to now Kendall Briles? Because they're similar, but what have you noticed are the subtle differences, or maybe not so subtle?
Well, I think the biggest thing everybody has said, and the biggest thing you see is just this quick game passing. There'll be a lot more tempo. I want to say TCU was in the middle of the pack last year in terms of offensive plays ran per game. Arkansas was either in the top 10 or they were number 11. So Kendall's going to have the offense playing even faster than they did last year. I think, there'll be a lot more screens. There'll be a lot more drafts, a lot more underneath stuff because the receiver room has changed so much from having those home run hitters like Quentin Johnson, Darius Davis, Tay Barber, to having more shifty, elusive guys like JoJo Earl, Major Everhart, John Paul Richards from Oklahoma State. So that's the biggest difference. And I think you're seeing the quarterback. I know Max Duggan ran a lot last year, but what you're seeing is the pocket is being moved a lot more, seeing a lot more bootlegs, a lot more rollouts. So I think that will be those 2 things, the quick passing game and how much the quarterbacks will be asked to move even when they're passing the ball. Those have been the 2 biggest things that stood out.
How is the running back room coming along, Steven?
I like what I've seen from it. Imani Bailey is in a kind of a battle with Alabama transfer Trey Sanders for that starting role. Sanders, of course, 5-star running back. There was some injuries at Alabama. He's kind of looking for a fresh start at TCU. I think right now, man, Sanders is the bigger back, but I think Bailey, who averaged more than 8 yards per carry last year, backing up Kendrick Miller and Amari DeMarcado, I think he's going to be the guy. I think he gives them the most pop. I think they'll probably use a committee approach, but I think Bailey could be the guy that could be that lead guy just because of what he can do, his explosiveness as a runner, and I think he's also could be a big threat in the passing game as well, too.
So your thoughts about TCU, the expectations. Last year, everything fell into place. Obviously, they were really, really good. So what are, in your opinions, what you think are the expectations now?
I think right now, if you're TCU, you want to contend and you want to push for another double-digit win season. And, TCU has had quite a few of those over the last couple of decades. So that would be my attitude going into it this season. The Big 12 is still wide open. We know Texas and Oklahoma are looking for bounce-back years, and they'll have the most talented rosters. But TCU brings a lot back. I think they did a great job in the transfer portal. They feel like they have hit on just about all of their transfers. All the transfers they have so far, either from starters or in the 2 deep, that's about all you can really ask for. So I think what TCU has coming back, especially on defense with 7 or 8 starters coming back, they should be one of the top teams in the Big 12 again and contend to get back to AT&T Stadium for the Big 12 championship game.
Steven Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, covers TCU with us on 365 Sports.
One of the things about Max Duggan wasn't just his ability, it was the leadership growth. Do you expect to see the same thing maybe from Chandler Morris and his ability to kind of rally the team around him? Because that was what Max couldn't do before, and then all of a sudden he could do it last year.
Well, I think Chandler had a great opportunity last year. I know it was tough for him because he beat out Max for the job, and there are people around the program that will tell you there are a lot of practice best guy on the team. But, what could you do when a guy gets off to a 12-0 start? So I think last year was probably great for him in terms of just, he had no choice but to grow up. You know what I mean? Not I think he had immaturity issues or anything like that. But being able to watch Duggan galvanize the team, especially after that Big 12 championship game, I think Chandler, who comes from a football background, I think people have kind of praised his leadership. And Monty Bailey actually said a lot of good things about what they've kind of been seeing from him. So I expect him to take that jump. But Chandler is just going to be about, can he stay healthy through a 12-game season?
Steven, can you sense them getting that positive rub off of that run last year already in terms of recruiting, in terms of fundraising, all of the different things that can come with success? Is that apparent, or is that still, kind of a work in progress as they, evolve into this following season?
Well, I thought it was apparent with what they were able to kind of do in the transfer portal, grabbing so many guys from the SEC, and a couple of those guys had starting experience as well, too. So I think that was one benefit of it. The last couple of days, they've been hosting up hundreds of kids on campus, including Colin Simmons, 5-star defensive end from Duncanville recently. So I think it's starting to pay off. Their recruiting class for 2024 is off to, I wouldn't even say a slow start. They got their quarterback last week, So I think they're going to start seeing a run on the recruiting trail. So I would say the momentum is up. The momentum is high. They're getting a lot more interest from both guys in the transfer portal and those upcoming high school prospects.
Have you had a chance to visit with Kendall Briles just about what he does as far as his calls and what he's trying to bring to the table? Because it is a little bit different than what Sonny Dykes has done or what Riley did for them.
We got a chance to talk to Kendall briefly during the spring. Got a chance he had a media opportunity. And his philosophy, which I think is similar to Garrett's, is, hey, man, we're going to do what we're good at. And whatever we shine at, running the ball, passing the ball, that's what we're going to do. He said, hey, we don't really care about, being strong in one and not as good in the other. They want to do what their players are good at. So I think he shares that philosophy with Garrett, But I think, like I said, the tempo is going to be the biggest thing, man. They want to push the tempo. And I think Garrett, which I think should please TCU fans, says, hey, the quick game is going to be a bigger emphasis this year, but we're still going to take plenty of our vertical shots. And you're seeing that a little bit more in the spring. So I think Kendall, his offense is going to be different. Maybe not as much. Hey, once again, it's still coming from the spread. You're still going to see a lot of 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. So the personnel groupings may look a lot the same, but I think there will definitely be some differences. You're going to see more and more as they install more and more of the offense.
So what can TCU fans expect, or just those outside observers that maybe want to check out the spring game? Is this going to be, traditional 4 quarters? They doing 2 halves? What's kind of the layout for what Sonny Dykes and crew are looking to accomplish? And what are you looking for as well? I know you've answered a lot of questions. They've answered a lot of questions. But what are you going to have your eyes on in terms of the game?
Well, in terms of format, it'll be more like an open practice, man. I think they're only going to go for maybe an hour, maybe 90 minutes at the most.
Okay.
So there'll be a lot of situational work, red zone offense, 2-minute offense. There will be some situation where they kind of simulate the game and, hey, just start at 20, try to get as far as you can. So there will be some game simulations, but I wouldn't expect, some of the other kind of patches you see with the spring games. I think the biggest thing for TCU, they want to put on a good show, but they want to get out of the spring healthy, man. They had a couple starters go down or couldn't participate, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing for them. And what what I want to see, or what I'm watching for, quarterbacks, of course, and just seeing some of these newer guys who are going to be contributors. This will be their first time having to kind of perform under the lights. We'll see how big the crowd is. So who really shines up? Who steps out, man? The talented receiver and running back, they're all pretty intense, man. So this is going to be kind of that last impression you can make before you kind of take that break and get ready for summer workouts.
It's obvious the answer might be, you would think maybe Max Duggan because of what he brought to the table, but they're losing some alphas, and that's what happens when you're good, and you have to replace them. Baylor went through that after 21 with Petrie and Bernard and the safety. I just went blank. All of them were so good. So Quentin Johnson, Travius Hodges, Tomlinson, Avila, Duggan, Kendry Miller, who among those, and I'm missing some, I know, who among those might be missed the most?
I think I will go with either Avila or Quentin Johnson, just because right now there are question marks, I think, an outside receiver for TCU. You like Jordan Hudson, who's going to be a rising sophomore, showed some really good flashes last year. Davion Williams had some really good moments, but neither have had that breakout spring that you wanted to see. So, replacing a potential first-round pick might be tough to do for the offense this year just because he was so prolific last year. And Avila, man, what can you say? Versatility. He could be one of the first interior offensive linemen drafted in a couple weeks. Kind of just says everything you need to know about him. So I think those two guys, the question marks, the outside receiver and kind of the interior O-line, they brought in Willis Patrick from Jackson State, who was actually one of the best friends with Avila that grew up in Grand Prairie. He's kind of brought some stability inside, but there's still more question marks, man. So I will go with Stephen Quinn as the guys I think would be the toughest to replace.
Stephen, thank you very much. Stephen Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, covers TCU. What a year it was for them getting to the championship game. It wasn't good how it ended. It was tough that they lost to Kansas State. Great win for Chris Kleiman and company. But Stephen Johnson with us on 365 Sports. But what a year it was. Hardly anybody would ever want anything other than that, other than the fact you'd like to end it a little bit better. But what a year.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you'd like to have a couple more trophies or at least one more in the trophy case. But, they got the big semifinal win over Michigan, so that's, not nothing. And to play in the national championship game at a school like that, given the current structure of college football, might be the last time we see something like that, if not for the expanded playoff. As far as just being able to squeeze into that top four, that's going to be, really difficult for anybody to do, especially a school like a TCU or a Baylor or just anybody who's not one of the top 20 traditional powers, basically. So that was a huge milestone. Obviously, now it's going to be far easier for everybody to at least claim that they had a spot in the playoff once it expands. But yeah, great year. Couldn't have asked for much more, and yet you could have. You could have asked for really a lot more, but you wouldn't trade that for many of the other years in TCU football history that were also successful. It was a great run, and we'll see how the dividends pay off in terms of recruiting and those things and how they can stack that up. Kendall Briles will be interesting. He's no stranger to the Big 12, and that offense is basically the flavor of the college football world right now for a lot of people. Their own spins on what we saw at Baylor for so many years. But, yeah, it's going to be fast-paced, and they're going to have great skill guys, and it's going to be a challenge for defenses. But, they sound like they're still loaded for bear despite losing a ton of players to the NFL draft. They lose all those guys, and we saw, Baylor trying to replace all their guys just a year ago. Wasn't easy, and they weren't even necessarily. They were replacing Jalen Petrie, and who's no dog, and JT Woods and guys like that. But you're talking about Kendry Miller and Quentin Johnston and Max Duggan and Steve Avila and Darius Davis, and they're losing a ton of guys that have been impactful. So thank God for the transfer portal, right? That's been a godsend.
It has been. It was amazing what they did, and even you think about to get to that point. Georgia had one scare, right? They had the scare. Was it Missouri? Was there anything else for them? Ohio State. Was it Ohio State?
Yeah.
So they had two scares.
Could have very well lost that game.
Yeah, so it was the field goal. They missed the field goal. So they had the game against Missouri. They blew out Oregon earlier, and they just kind of rolled through most everybody else. But you have to have moments like that. You have to have something that falls your way, whether, and last year for TCU, they found a way. The Baylor game was obviously one that was dramatic because they found a way. Anything goes wrong on those last two, anything goes wrong on those last two drives or in Baylor's last drive, they didn't win that game. But they found a way, and that was kind of like the Max Duggan mentality of them finding a way. All right, Robert Brazil, Texas Sports Hall of Fame here in Waco. It's a museum for the memories of Texas sports and athletics. He's part of that induction class. Scott Drew, Priest Holmes, Adrian Peterson, and Robert Brazil, who was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I think, just like 3 years ago. Long time, great Houston Oiler. One time mentioned to Earl Campbell about Robert Brazil. He said he was the best Oiler he ever played, one of the greatest Oilers player he played with. And he played with some pretty good ones. He's going to join us in a little bit off the top of the 5 o'clock hour. But we got a couple of other things to get to. There was a note about Colorado. We'll get to that in the next segment. nothing really to see there, but we'll get to it. UConn picks up a big name transfer and much more. This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem, the best place to go for local craft whiskeys. I mean, Texas craft whiskeys. I say local because I'm local in Texas. But, and look, if you're coming through Waco and you want a good place to buy a variety of local craft whiskeys, that's the place you got to go. They've got lots of different great stuff. I bought a bottle of Garrison Brothers there that I am going to be sad when it's empty because it was it is so good. I still have it. I haven't had that much of it yet because I'm trying to savor it, but it was so fantastic there. Whether it's Balcones or Devil's River, TX, I mean, they've got tons and tons of great stuff there in the craft whiskey department. Excellent craft beers, drive-through window that is just so ridiculously fast, and great customer service. Plus, you can check out any interesting promotions or new ads they have as far as products go on Instagram. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals couldn't be any hotter. Get a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $4,250 plus 4.9% for 72 months. Or get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with 1.9% for 72 months or 10% off MSRP. That's right. Come pick from the best selection of brand new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels in Waco while supplies last.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Couple of bullet points here. PGA Tour, any updates we give you on golf brought to you by Bear Ridge Golf Club on their Highway 84 in Woodway, just south of Waco. 44-year-old former Baylor star PGA champion back in the day, Jimmy Walker leads the RBC Heritage, 12 under par, 3-stroke lead over Justin. These are some big names behind him. Justin Rose, Cantley, and Fleetwood are 8 under. Scheffler's 9 under. Spieth is 7 under. Rahm is 7 under, had a big second round. Jimmy Walker was a really high-level, ranked number 1 in the world golfer. He contracted Lyme disease, and his career pretty much was derailed a lot of it because of it. Great guy, 12 under par through 2 rounds, leading the RBC Heritage. Speaking of golf, Rory McIlroy skipped this week's event. Do you know, because they have those new rules about designated events for players, certain players, it cost him $3 million in the bonus pool.
Oh, man.
But, I mean, he knew that. The fine is for a second absence from a designated event, which will be withheld from the $12 million payout to McIlroy from the Players Impact Program, and never gave a reason of why. Probably mentally blown out of his mind because of how poorly he played at the Masters and missed the cut.
Yeah,
I think there's a toll I think there's a toll because of him almost trying to represent the PGA Tour during all this drama over the last year with Liv.
Yeah, I think he wanted to take a deep breath. And look, I know that $12 million is a lot of money to most people, and it
$3 million.
$3 million,
Yeah.
but $12 million in the long run.
Yeah.
But $3 million is a lot of money, but Rory will make that up somewhere.
Yeah,
So.
he set out the opening tournament of champions from last year's winners to open the year in Hawaii, and so he has the one.
Well, that was dumb.
Excuse. I'm telling you.
I mean, set out the one in a crappy place.
Yeah. Washington State guard T.J. Bamba, pretty good. He's headed to Villanova, to play for Villanova. Not related to former Texas star Mo Bamba, but he's headed to play for Villanova. The schools that were interested included the elite ones: Kansas, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia Tech, Auburn, North Carolina, St. John's, among others. He picked Villanova. Paul, remember what you said yesterday about Jimmy Haslam and the family?
Yeah.
The ownership? How about this one? He is now a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, that's been in the works for a little bit, and I'm glad the Bucks got their title a couple years ago, because when it's Jimmy Haslam's money, I'm just telling you, look, he's great at running truck stops, although there was a little shady stuff that happened there too. So when it's Jimmy Haslam's money, I don't know how confident I would be. Look, what's he done? Well,
signed Deshaun Watson to a hell of a contract.
Yeah, and 30, again, now he's probably on the list of guys that the owners are rolling their eyes at.
Yeah.
Because you've now set the market for all these other quarterbacks who it was already going up and up and up. And look, I think, I'm not here to say that, NFL players don't deserve fully guaranteed contracts, and there needs to be something, especially, the toll they put on their bodies and how popular the game is and how much blah, 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 blah. But look, it was not if you're going to give somebody a fully guaranteed contract, it better be Patrick Mahomes, not Deshaun Watson, who hadn't played in almost 2 years.
Every NFL owner said, okay, we're mad at Daniel Snyder, but now we're pissed off at Jimmy Haslam.
Yeah.
All right, today, don't overreact. I'm putting this up, but don't overreact to what's on the screen, because a lot of people probably did. Monday, Colorado having a special board meeting, executive session only. There is, at the bottom, you see Athletics Matters. Okay, take that down, Garrett, because a lot of people are going to think what we're going to say is, oh, my God, Colorado's voting. They're not. They're going to discuss, obviously, their future, among other things. Arizona has one of these on the 19th of April. But I traded some text messages with Brian Howell from the Boulder Daily Camera. He said, I think the main preference for Colorado is stay in the Pac-12 if it's possible. I'd be surprised if any move was made before a media rights deal is on the table with the Pac-12. If you don't, you're dumb. Unless the SEC or the Big Ten called you, and they're not. So he was just talking about, he goes, I just think they're going to talk, nothing major is going to happen on Monday, but it's just a part of having a meeting, executive session, though, with a little bit to do with athletics. And Colorado's AD, Rick George, who completely shot holes into a tweet earlier in this week, also has been pretty highly confident with what he's seen and publicly about what he thinks about the commissioner and George Kliavkoff.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rick George, said it pretty flatly that not like they're looking to leave the Big 12. But can we be very clear on something? No one. I mean, point me to. I mean, I guess there's people out there who go and eventually delete tweets for one reason or another when they get called out by Rick George. Like that was originally him responding to a tweet. That tweet gets deleted, and there's an explanation for why. But it's just kind of like, okay, I don't know. I don't buy into that you've talked to like 20 sources every day on this subject for like 100 days in a row. There's just not that much information being processed for that to even be feasible. So I don't dive fully into like just anything that's said and believe it at face value. But I don't think there's just nothing to anything either, like some people try to portray of, like, oh, this is all just PR and made up and blah, blah, blah. And look, the Arizona president said this. Well, yeah, read the next paragraph. And he also left the door completely wide open. So, like, there's people on either side that are the extreme people that are, kind of taking it this far. Like, they're actively trying to leave. And there's people saying, well, there's no chance in hell they do. Let's state for, like, the 50th time what the chances are of anything actually happening. It all surrounds the TV deal. And so no S that they're not going to make a move in Boulder, Colorado without knowing the TV deal. I think that's pretty elementary to follow. But once they get that, depending on how that looks, do I think there's a greater than 0% chance if that thing really sucks and they're, 50% streaming on whatever and they're on the CW the rest of the way? Do I think there's at least like some itch that could be lying in Tempe, Arizona or Boulder, Colorado? Yeah, potentially. I'm not banking on it, though. We've all maintained the entire time that we think it stays the status quo because there just won't be enough of a disparity. But I think that either side's being, and I'm not talking about everybody involved. I'm talking about just the real extreme polar opposites of there's absolutely nothing, bull, and there's all this activity that's like, constant every single day. There's these secret. I don't buy that. That's bull too. I just don't think there's not enough time in the day to focus as much as you would think based on how much reporting has been thrown out there at times. So I think like anything else, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and the truth is pretty clear. Get the right figure and the right all that, and everything's good. And if you don't, then let's see what pops off and happens. But that's been the case this entire time. That's been the constant, no matter what other noise has been out there or what this person has said or that AD has said. Even I saw, I was like, look, the Arizona guy, like I said, next paragraph, the door's swinging right back open. So
everyone can pick and choose certain
exactly.
phrases.
That's
but
what's going on.
That's kind of what they do in Congress or those when it comes to politics. All right, coming up, he's a Hall of Famer in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It probably took a lot longer than it should have. In fact, our good friend John McClain had a lot to do with Robert Brazile getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He will be inducted tomorrow evening into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame with other great names like Scott Drew, Priest Holmes, Adrian Peterson, and others. And he's next. Robert Brazile, former Oilers great, next on 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace closes in about an hour, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. They'll be open tomorrow, and their specials through tomorrow. Atlantic salmon, fresh Atlantic salmon in the butcher shop area, $14.75 a pound. Smoked pork tenderloin, $4.50 a pound. Chicken drumsticks, 75 cents a pound. Also for $1.99 a pound, bone-in pork chops, select, choice, and prime New York strip steak. I had a couple of those Wagyu strip steaks the other day. They are fantastic, from $9.50, $12.50, and $16.50 a pound. 15% off all snack sticks, Waco Custom Marketplace. Cold beer, cold wine. When you walk in the door to the right side, there's the butcher shop to the left, from seafood to pork to poultry, and then also beef, and a bunch of beef from hamburger meat all the way up to the great-looking steaks. And on top of that, all the other necessities you need inside of a grocery store. Waco Custom Marketplace. The bakery's to the right. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Richard Carr is loaded with GMC Sierra trucks. Make your best deal in years. Step up to premium grade GMC Sierra and save thousands at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get 2.9% financing and $3,000 in savings on most new 2023 GMC Sierra SLE, SLT 1500s in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to richardcarr.com and drive home your new GMC Sierra today. See dealer for details.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run, and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Never forget one time when we were interviewing Earl Campbell, he talked about, he could not talk enough about how he thought Robert Brazile was the best player he ever played with in the NFL. He eventually, thank goodness, Robert Brazile, a part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and tomorrow night inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. He joins Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. Robert, thank you very much for joining us. What does it mean to be inducted into a state that has hundreds of great athletes over the years to be inducted into the State Hall of Fame of Texas?
First of all, I want to thank you guys for giving me a shout out. I only played for the Houston Oilers. The Houston Oilers was the only professional team that I played for. So all of my fans and supporters was a part of my success. I mean, these are the people that supported me and was backing me through those 10 graceful years I had to play with the Houston Oilers. So this is more than an honor. I mean, I got some Hall of Fame. I'm not ashamed to say that, but this one means so much to me because these are the people I think that that know me, that love me, and supported me.
Okay, you got to practice against Earl. You didn't have to play against him, but I'm pretty sure it probably took some pops. Who delivered the most punishment in practice between you and him, or was it a pretty even battle?
It's funny you asked me that question because that's part of my speech tomorrow. When Earl first came to the Houston Oilers, I had, played with Walter for the 4 years. And, every day was like first blood for me and Walter. Who was going to our show. But it got me ready, kept me sharp, kept me on top of all of my games. So the first time we was out having some pass rushing, some blocking drills, and we went to the offensive against defense. And I went through there and popped Earl once, bomb blowed the whistle. They called us both over there. He said, Robert. I said, Coach, what's wrong? He said, Robert, the Houston Oilers is not on our schedule. We do not play the Houston Oilers. And if Earl gets hurt, who's going to pay running back, Rob? So that was the end of our contact. We had non-contact on between me and Earl. So at that one, I'm putting in perspective. Earl got the best lick.
That team had so many characters, Robert. You, Dan Pastorini, all of the other ones that were a part of it. Earl. How much fun, I know winning helped too, but how much fun was that locker room and just the camaraderie?
It was so laid back, but when it was time for business, we had a helmet there. When we scrapped up, we was ready to play football. But when you talk about the different people that's in there, everybody was a piece of that puzzle. I think about the Karl Marx. I think about the Leon Graves. I think about the Greg Bingham. I think about the Steve Connors, the Vernon Perry. We all was a part of something that we knew we had a teammate that you could count on, first of all. And we had a fearless leader that let us beat us, let us play football. And so it all played out. We just had one little obstacle and was always in Pittsburgh, keeping us from getting to the big dance.
How different was Bum Phillips compared to other coaches that you'd played for in your life?
I think Bum was a player's type of coach for me. Somebody that, I think it was more or less a father, more than a coach. If I had any problem on or off the field, Bum would come to you with an honest answer. The type of thing that you wanted to say, man, thank you so much for just being here for me, Coach. I mean, thank you for that answer, Coach. I thank you for putting these guys together. We had a group of guys that really loved, and we loved each other like brothers. And Bob was the key to that thing. He had his son coaching them with, we all just feel like we was Wade brother at the time. We all wanted to work hard.
Robert, what did it mean to you when you got the call? I asked you about the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, and you said thanks to a lot of people. But when you got the call about being added to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, what do you remember about the call?
It was like, Brenda, my wife, right? It's funny. Every time I get a phone call, I mean, riding with her or sitting somewhere in a quiet place. I said, Brenda, you're not going to believe it. I finally made the Texas Hall of Fame. And she know how much it meant for me. And it was like shocking. It's like heartwarming. I mean, I told John McClain I wasn't going to cry for this. I cried like a baby when I got the call from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But this was such an honor because, like I told you from the beginning, I only played for the Houston Oilers. All of our true fans was from Texas. Between Dallas and Houston Oilers, we got a lot of fans here.
Mm-hmm. You played at Jackson State. Back in the day, that school that produced you and Walter Payton, and there were other HBCUs that produced a lot of great names and Pro Football Hall of Famers over the years. And then things kind of just went away. And then there was a lot of smoke around the HBCUs, and they're getting a lot more media coverage, TV coverage, games on TV, the Dion factor. How much has that made you happy that they're getting a little bit more love?
Well, when you know in love, and I tell people, I bleed blue. If you cut me, it's blue. That all the blue, that Jackson State blue. When you go away from, you see your school make a change. First of all, Dion did so much for my university. I mean, I kudos him. I give praises for all the things that he did, because everybody forgot about all the talent that was there. You know, off of my 4 years there, we got 3 Hall of Famers. Really, everybody forget about Jacket Slater. He's off that team I played with, and all other guys that should get to those rises, but they don't. Leon Gray's a Hall of Fame, I think. Mm-hmm. You know, but all that praise comes from people like Dion brought us back to the spotlight. Now, all we got to do now is the new coach. I don't know what he's going to do to have the spring game. But I told him I was as bad as I wanted to be there. This meant so much to me to be inducted to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. I couldn't make it, but I'm pulling for him, and I want all great things to come from my school. And it's going to work out. So all we got to do now is take what Dion left us and build on it.
Yeah, you, Robert, Leon Gray's a heck of an example, hell of an offensive lineman in the day. You're already in the you're in the Mississippi State Hall of Fame, of course, from Jackson State. Now the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Is that it? I mean, is this like the trifecta for you, the winning the Triple Crown?
No, I'm actually in the 11th Hall of Fame.
Oh, well, I don't know what that number would be.
Wow.
You got
to count everything in Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame.
Okay.
The Mobile Hall of Fame. The Cedar Pritchett Hall of Fame. And the state of Alabama.
Wow.
All right. Let's go to Mississippi. Jackson State. The SWAC. The Black College Hall of Fame. The Black Texas Sports Hall of Fame. I'm in another one out here in Dallas. And the Mississippi Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, is the first one, even though the Pro Football Hall of Fame is monstrous, and even the one like this one, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, are they all about the same? Are they all the fact that you're being recognized either later than you should have been or not? Are they all just...
Well, it took me 30 years to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And almost 35 years to get into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. And you think about all the great athletes that's out here in Texas. You think about all the great people that have worked. You know, I'm so glad and so proud to be counted in that number. You know, that means so much to me and my family because we actually love the state of Texas. You know, I mean, this is the only place that I made all of my money from was the state of Texas.
Robert Brazile, tomorrow night, will be inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Paul?
Robert, you mentioned that all your fans are Texas. You played for the Oilers. Now that the Oilers are in the Titans, are you more like, how do the players of that team lean? Because all your records are technically with them, but the city of Houston is where all your fans are.
Well, in my speech tomorrow, I'm going to give you, the tail end of it's going to be thanking, first of all, Bud Adams. Bud Adams gave me my first professional job. Now, I want to thank his daughter, Amy Adams Crutch, who has kept and took in my team, the Houston Oilers. We are now a part of the Titans. We had our second homecoming or reunion with the Titans, and I'm in the Ring of Honor in Nashville. So I tell everybody I was born in Harlem, but I'm a die Titan.
There you go. It's part of the change in the NFL. What did did you know all the words to "Love You Blue" back in the day when the Oilers were so good?
Love you blue. Yeah, that music. I mean, the fans. But you got to learn it's the same the sound and the reaction from the fans because of what you're doing on the field.
Yep.
They are really it's a part of what you are doing to make that feel and sound good to everybody that was in the Astrodome.
People in the chat room, we have a chat room we're on YouTube, the TV part of it, and they're saying what a great man, a gentleman. Some people probably don't have as much teeth today because they ran into Robert Brazil on the football field. So for those that don't know, not only you, but Lem Barney, a great player. Harold Jackson, the wide receiver. And there's Walter Payton.
Should be in the Hall of Fame. Harold Jackson. Should be there also.
Jackie Slater. Jackie Slater's in the Hall of Fame. Man.
I'm going to tell you something else that we hold. You know that Jackson State holds an interception record that would never be broken.
No, I don't
know. Remember we played San Diego Chargers. We're in the playoff game. Vernon Perry did 4 interceptions in the playoff game. And he blocked a field goal.
Wow.
And the cool thing about that, we all kidding. We got ran down by Mike Fuller, which was, we say, you got a white boy catch you.
Oh, that's awesome. Robert, we met you when the Houston hosted the Super Bowl. They've done it a few times, but they hosted it. We had you. We were on with you.
Yes.
We got to know you. We had you when you were announced as a Pro Football Hall of Famer. You're a class act, man.
I got to introduce him a couple years ago at the golf tournament. He came. It was right after
at the golf tournament. At
the golf tournament, and I had to do it because he had just been announced for the Hall of Fame. I had to do Roberts up big. I couldn't just be like, "Hey, Robert Brazil, get next in line." You have to like drum it up.
Yeah.
When you just, we were like 6 weeks out of the announcements or 2 months, so it was very exciting.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting to hear you guys. And like I tell everybody, if you need me, call me. The answer is yes, unless I'm busy. Call me anytime. I'm do anything that y'all need me to do, man. Thanks for this. And to all my Texas fans, I am so proud and so humbled that the state of Texas are putting in this Hall of Fame. It means so much to me. I'm not going to cry. I'm keep my tears in my eyes and just walk around with a smile and a big wide chest.
Well, Robert, I'll be there tomorrow evening. I'm so thrilled for you, and it's you earned it. Long time coming. Look forward to it. Thank you so much for giving us time and a little reminiscing, and congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
You too. Robert Brazil, Pro Football Hall of Famer in 11 different Hall of Fames, including now tomorrow night officially into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame.
By the way, I just want to get a quick survey from you guys. I've been educating our friend Paxton on why teams leave cities. Why is the only reason a team ever leaves a city?
In my opinion, it's almost always because of a stadium issue.
Yeah. There might be an outlier in there, but it always usually comes down to, I would like a new stadium. I would like the city to pay for it in spite of my wealth. And the city says, well, we're not going to do that, or you can only do it here. And then they say, no, I'm going to move them.
Yeah,
pretty much. I'm sure there's some cases where there's, slightly more to it, but I think that's pretty much the gist of it is, as long as you get what you want, you're fine staying where you are. But if you're not getting what you want, then there's the threat to leave and, the possibility of doing just that. So, that's pretty much the main reason, yep.
It depends on who you ask, but there are many. Remember we had the guy Evan Weiner on a couple of weeks ago about cities that are basically almost handcuffed, forced into a corner. And whether or not, I don't know if there's ever true data that will show whether or not they ever get the money back if a city puts up a bunch of the money to put up one of these stadiums that now are going to cost you $1 billion or so.
Yeah, that's most of the time they don't. That's why
San Diego left to L.A. for what reason?
They couldn't agree on the stadium.
Jack Murphy Stadium,
there's fan support too.
Yeah, that's true.
Fan support's definitely part of it. If you're not, but then it turns into like an A's situation where the fans are boycotting, but then the team's kind of boycotting them, and so it's just a standoff where it's going to only result probably in the A's moving to Las Vegas and get what they want ultimately. But like if you're an A's fan, what are you going to do? I mean, you've complained as much as you can. You've done what you can for those who are loyal to the franchise and want them to stay around, but the city's not budging. The franchise isn't budging. You want to boycott because the stadium sucks and they're, not doing what you feel like they should at least be doing bottom line as a fan, but at the same time, like, I don't know. It's just it's a terrible situation. They've had to do it now a couple of times with the Raiders and the Warriors, and probably have to do it again with the A's, and that'll leave them with absolutely nothing in Oakland.
Look at an interesting situation right now.
Forgot about Oakland because it used to be the Oakland Oaks in the ABA, talking about the basketball team, which now, of course, Golden State.
And that's like they've moved to San Francisco.
San Francisco Warriors.
They've moved across the bay. And the Raiders are in Las Vegas now. So all that little area right there, the Omni and the Coliseum are about to be empty when the A's finally leave. But one interesting one, and Justin, thanks for bringing this up here on the chat room, is the Rays in St. Pete. Mm-hmm. They desperately want to leave what is one of the worst places you can watch a baseball game. They don't want to be there. The fans, even the Rays are the best team in baseball this year right now by far, and they've had the best start of anyone.
13-0 is pretty good.
13, they're fantastic, and people are going. I mean, people are going to the games, but I promise you, as a former resident of the Tampa area, it just stinks to get there. It's hard. Yeah. And it's hard to get there. And so even when they're good, if you were a fan, or even when they're playing a good team, you're like, God, do I really want to go watch Ohtani pitch tonight? It's going to take me forever to get over there and back. And they need to be in Tampa proper, but
like the hockey team,
they signed a 700-year lease apparently with the city of St. Pete that they can't get out of.
There's also arguments over who pays what. Yeah, and, that's a mess. So they've just been at a standstill basically.
I was wrong on the Oakland Oaks. They are not part of the Golden State Warriors. They were the Philadelphia Warriors initially, then became the San Francisco Warriors, and back then they had guys like Nate Thurman, Rick Barry, etc., and then became the Golden State Warriors, and they've been that way since 1971.
Can you imagine, though, having 3 pro sports teams, and you might have 0 by the end of the decade? I mean, I don't know. The A's could drag this out another 20 years. I mean, that's basically what they've been doing, but, I mean, that's entirely possible. They can move to Vegas, and I don't think that's something that if they really feel like there's a chance, they're going to wait all that much longer to try and do that. But, you went from, at one point in time, being able to go to a Raiders game, a Warriors game, an A's game, and you're not going to be able to go to any of that here pretty soon, possibly.
Think about this. The A's, I mentioned this yesterday when we brought up ownership. They've won like 9 World Series titles, but 4 of them, I think, are like back in the teens, like 1910, whatever. They have a lot of world championships, although it's been since the, late 80s, 88 or so since their last one, 88, 89. And the Raiders are one of the richest championship franchises as far as I'm talking about wins and losses and Super Bowls, and they're gone. And not only just franchises, but good ones that had, they all had their own little niche to them,
Yeah, I really do wish, and this was brought up, that the Titans would have just left the Oilers name.
Yeah, because that's so bogus.
The Texans is such a boring name for a team. Yeah, and sure. It just,
I don't know how that would have worked.
And somebody got complimented and it was like, wow, what a creative idea. And they just came up with Texans. The most boring, vanilla name possible.
The Brown, when the NFL gave the Cleveland back the Browns, they worked it out with Modell to give him the name.
Right,
so it could have been the same thing. I don't think Bud was as sour at Houston as Art Modell was with Cleveland, so I don't know.
Well, they left in the middle of the night. Yeah. Remember that? A snowy night when they packed up an 18-wheeler or so and headed towards Baltimore.
But I get it. That's the Titans are the Oilers, but it just sucks, that they can't just somehow have come up with a swap of the trademarks and just let the city of Houston, be the bearers of the Oilers, because, it doesn't seem right. And in hindsight, that would have been better to just be the Houston Oilers again than probably the Texans.
If I ever buy the Texans, which I doubt is going to happen, or become NFL commissioner, which is more likely than me buying the Texans, but still not very likely. Right. It'd be easier for me to get that job than make enough money to buy the Texans. But if I ever am, that's one of the things I'll do is I will sit down the Adams family and the McNairs and go, listen, for the good of the city of Houston and the NFL, just let them have the name. You can have all the records and everything else. Let them have the name. You're a completely different thing in a completely different city. The people and here's the reason I say that. The people in Nashville, while like Robert Brazil, he just said that, but they don't really care about Earl Campbell because he never played it down in Nashville.
Bud Adams' daughter does, and she's the one running the show in Tennessee.
And
that's the Oilers
I'm trying to
tie-in.
figure this out. The Texas Rangers are originally the Washington Senators because I lived in Virginia 4 years and loved the Senators, even though they were always just bad.
Well, the Senators were two different teams, right?
They were the Twins even before that, I think it was. But I'm trying to find out, like someone like Frank Howard, who hit 48 home runs one year and 44 a couple of years, is he a part of their all-time records? He should be, because the Senators were originally – well, the Rangers were originally the Senators.
I do like that I like the name, the Washington Nationals. I think their jerseys look good. I think they're cool. I was rooting for them to go back to the Senators, though. Although I guess that would have been kind of a harbinger because they lost the other two teams that were the Senators. But it's a different time.
It's a cooler name, like as far as rolling off the tongue.
Yeah.
It's like Sentinels.
That Washington Senators, that W, like you're wearing, is that what you're wearing, Gary?
Yeah, I got a Nationals hat on.
How weird is that? We brought that up. That was the original Washington Senators. When I was there, I loved them. They were terrible, but I loved them. Like a lot of teams, they were always terrible at some particular time. Now Nebraska's the opposite. They were great. Now they're terrible. All right, it's 5:26, 365 Sports. A couple of notes to come back with. By the way, a note about Texas Beef House. If you make an order on TexasBeefHouse.com, they are the ones that joined us a couple of weeks ago with the Wagyu beef. If you make an order or you call them or go online, TexasBeefHouse.com, and use the code SICKEM, SICEM 1010, you will get 10% off if you're a first-time buyer, your order if it's $100 or more. I know Kim Coulter, like the moment we mentioned him, Kim was fantastic, bought something, went online, and some of you have. If you haven't, we'd appreciate you do that because I'm telling you, Aaron Duvall and company have been great. And they're going to supply the product we have prior to the tailgate or during the tailgate, the Sikkim365.com tailgate before the Utah game in September. Blake Blackmar is going to have himself a great time along with Brian Etheridge, who does a lot of the cooking too. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. And I'm not just saying that because it's, just the thing to say. I'm saying that because I've counted on them a couple of different times over the last 2 years. When my car's gotten a couple of wrecks, they've been the people to go and fix my side door and my side mirror and the scratching of the paint as my side mirror at one point was swinging back and forth on the drive back home from Dallas after some debris hit. It's just headaches, and it's not fun having to go take your car in, trying to plan out how am I going to get to work, how am I going to get back home, how am I going to do this, how am I going to run errands. But the good folks at Richard Carr will get your car in and get it back to you in no time, and when you get it back, you will also know that, barring something else unforeseen, it's going to be in it for the long haul, and it's going to drive as well as before your initial incident happened. And right now, you can go get yourself a vehicle at Richard Carr, whether it's new, pre-owned, and you can also get just service on your car as well. Right now, they're celebrating their 24th anniversary sales event, which means big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks, special savings in particular on GMC Sierras and Buick Envision SUVs. They've got dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot right now. You can save $3,000 on a new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT or SLE 1500. And also get special financing on the 2023 GMC Sierras as well. Just when you give them a call or you visit the website or you go over to the dealership to talk to the good folks over there, they can break down the details and the numbers better for you. But special deals going on right now when it comes to the 2023 Sierras. If you're not looking for a pickup, or you're looking for a SUV, how about luxury without a luxurious price? That's what you can get with the smooth and quiet ride of the 2023 Buick Encores, Buick Envisions, and Buick Enclaves. Qualified buyers can get low financing and save $2,500 on the Buick Enclave Premium or $3,500 on the Buick Enclave Avenir. They also have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them have been checked out from head to toe, and you can be sure that they've been thoroughly inspected, and they're affordable and ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Quality pre-owned vehicles ready to drive today. And as I mentioned, if you're not even looking to buy, just looking for service, like me, a couple of times over the last 2 years, well, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road, and you can go to their website, richardcarr.com. That's KARR.com. and see their service specials, but also set an appointment for quick and reliable repair. In business for 24 years in Central Texas, getting close to the 25-year mark. Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. Keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
It's the next to the last weekend of college football spring games. Give you a list of some of them coming up this weekend. I sent this to Garrett yesterday. We didn't have time to get to it, but this is not full. This is not completely done because, like, for example, the gymnastics championships are going on, and there are other sports to be, and I'll tell you which ones have not yet been decided. But the Learfield Directors Cup, the Directors Cup update through the NCAA men's and women's championships. Ohio State, right now with a lead over Texas. There's Stanford. Texas has won the last two. Stanford won like the first forever, all of them. North Carolina's always in the mix. There's Alabama, Wisconsin, Penn State, Tennessee, North Carolina State, Virginia. I'll leave that up for a second. I don't know how much. Did I give you anything else
Yeah, there's a list with like the Big 12 schools
All
as
right,
well.
so there's the top 10. And again, there's a lot more to come that will vault Stanford and Texas up because of swimming, track and field, and many other things too. For Texas. Here are the schools from the Big 12 that were not listed. BYU 24, Oklahoma State 28. Now again, BYU is not a part of the Big 12 in this particular Learfield Cup, but they will be. TCU had a hell of a year with football, had a great year in basketball, pretty good year in basketball. West Virginia at 46, Baylor 55, and it has been the disappointment of football, the disappointment as far as expectations in men's basketball. Women's basketball, maybe that's about who they should have been because of the losses of Blackwell and perhaps not able to use Dre Edwards. KU, right behind Baylor. Iowa State, Oklahoma, that's really low for them. I don't think wrestling, I may be wrong if wrestling's been decided yet. They'll have gymnastics points coming. Houston, Texas Tech. Tech will always do well when it comes to track and field. I'm not talking about outdoor track and baseball, too.
Oklahoma's about to have some softball.
No, God, how did I forget that? Yeah, so they're going to jump up. Kansas State, UCF, and then Cincinnati's had a pretty rough year. Now, the sports...
Pretty rough. That's more than rough.
Yeah, there's
that's
300
a full-blown,
almost
twice as low as the last place in
They've
UCF.
had a bad year, yeah. No, you're right.
I mean, that's not going to cut it, boys and girls.
I believe
168.
I believe there are, how many schools are listed? I've got the entire list because I'm crazy about that. 251 schools that are a part of this in the Learfield Cup, the Directors Cup. Now, here are the sports that have not yet been decided. Bowling for women, men's hockey, both the men and women gymnastics.
So Oklahoma could score big there again.
Volleyball, which is men's volleyball. Women's beach volleyball. Texas won the women's volleyball championship, but that's already included in the numbers that they have. Men's and women's lacrosse. Men's and women's golf. The Big 12 always has great representation there. Rowing.
Just skipped
softball.
over tennis.
Did I really? Men's and women's tennis, and that's TCU, Texas. Baylor's just had a really off year for them, but those are some schools that they'll do well there. Oklahoma, I think, pretty good too. Rowing, softball, that's Oklahoma. Still hard to imagine Baylor beat them, right? Remember earlier this year.
I mean, Oklahoma State's pretty good too.
Yeah, they are. Men's and women's outdoor track and field. There's another one where Texas and Texas Tech do well, among others. And Baylor's got a pretty good run with what they're doing. And then women's water polo. Now, this includes, everyone thinks football, men's and women's basketball, whatever, baseball. There's a lot to be done. That's why Stanford, there's a lot of those, like you look at Stanford and what they could have done before, and they would get you with rowing and other sports. They just did a lot. And now Texas has a pretty full-fledged athletic department. Not everybody plays some of these sports, but there we are with where we are at the Directors' Cup through the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments.
Yeah, I feel like we've only started really talking about this since Texas has dethroned Stanford, but that's, making history because, Stanford was seemingly on top for so long. But, yeah, I don't remember really thinking too much about this except for the last couple of years. I mean, I did in the 90s. And maybe early 2000s, and then just sort of forgot about it for a while there. But, yeah, I mean, Stanford being dethroned is something. It is weird, though. You see, like, swimming and diving, and then you look at, like, winning the Big 12, and I think there's, like, 2 teams from the actual Big 12 that are in swimming and diving, and it's like, I don't even know who it is. But then it's, like, Denver's in there, or that's wrestling, sorry. But it's weird, like, some of these sports, like, all these schools that you don't even realize are in the Big 12, so to speak, or the fact that there's like 4 teams competing in the whole thing or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, all that adds up, and this rewards, I guess, just the whole athletic department. So, you can't just thrive in a couple and win this thing. You got to be good across the board. So, regardless, it is a testament to your overall strength as an athletic department.
Stanford had become so consistent winning that it was Sears and then Learfield Cup, that it was like
I watched the Sears Cup. That's where I followed that.
Yeah, but then it was like Bob Costas kept winning the sports Emmy, and it became a joke on Dan Patrick's show because he was nominated every year with Bob Costas, and everybody knew they'd just be like, well, somebody calls him up like, hey Dan, you've been nominated for a sports Emmy, and he'd be like, is Costas nominated? He's like, all right, well, thanks for writing my name on a sheet, but I know you're giving it to Bob.
Yep, no, you're right. That's a great point. I remember back when he was on ESPN, it used to be such a great bit. J.G. Nirolado, when I was talking about the Rangers a minute ago and their history, what doesn't make sense is how the Rangers have doubled the budget of the Astros, yet still have 0 world championships. That hurts. You got us. You got me. Craig's Rangers fan, so am I. Paul, the Red Sox fan.
I mean, I get the friendly banner, but I've never looked at the Astros that way. I don't look at them as like some great rival, or do I look at them and like get jealous about their success? They're not that to me. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you view it that way, then it's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, I'm more just bummed out that the Rangers had one in hand and let it just fall to the ground inexplicably because they were too ready to celebrate, out in right field. Or, some will say Neftali Feliz gave up a ball that was entirely catchable, but it's still somehow his fault, because of all that came after the third out that he got for you. Zach Burke is a moron, by the way, that I'll never forget just arguing with him about Neftali Feliz, it being Neftali Feliz's fault because he gave up this or gave up that. He gave up the hit that was supposed to go straight into the glove of Nelson Cruz to win a World Series, and Nelson Cruz misplayed it, and that's why they ended up ultimately losing. Yes, other things had to happen, but the ball to win the game was delivered, and the guy who should have caught it did not catch it.
Which is he's right-handed, so the glove's here. He just didn't get a jump.
I don't blame Neftali Feliz for that because, certainly after the fact, like other things, off the rails. They had another game, though, after that just is forgotten about. But
even more so, Craig,
was there.
They took the lead again, even after giving up the lead.
Right.
Remember, at the top of the inning.
Okay, their situation is very much like Buckner in that everybody thinks about Game 6 and Buckner doing that. Well, the Red Sox, lost. That was Game 6, so the Mets could stay in the series. Game 7 came around. The Red Sox had their guts ripped out. Same with the Rangers.
Yep.
I've always
they were
blamed
a no-show. Rangers in
Ron
Game
Washington
7.
for that. In that, I don't know why the need to have Nelson Cruz on the field for them winning, because I'm going to at that point put in, especially with a Game 7 on the line.
Who's the defensive replacement?
Yeah,
Did they have one?
I mean,
you can say that. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but Nelson Cruz.
Did.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I don't know if they had a guy. Normally, that's a center fielder. I don't know how often you got a guy that's in right field, although right field, of course, is someone like Cruz who has a great gun, has an arm. It's just disgusting to talk about it because it was a heartbreaker.
They could have put in Andy Chavez or Craig Gentry, who would have easily
had
caught
some
the
wheels.
ball.
Yeah, Gentry had some wheels.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, look at it that way too much. And, besides, Astros aren't really a rival. Besides, they cheated anyways.
Oh, God.
I'm just kidding. I don't view it that way either. I'm just having fun. But no, I mean, there are definitely people that consider that a major rivalry. I know they've been in the division together now for quite some time, but it's been amazing to see what the Astros have done for sure. But I don't look at it negatively. Good for them. They've earned it.
Wet blanket, Craig. You're making me sick again. Yeah, he's bringing up some bad memories for me. That was I cannot explain to you. I'm living in an apartment here in Waco, and I'm right in front of the television saying, "My God, they're going to win the World Series." I never said it out loud. And there's the shot to right field, should have been caught, should have been picked up, and just yanked every part of my guts.
Look, they put in Esteban Herman and left at one point in the game. They moved people around, and I mean, there were options.
The option was Nelson Cruz could have just caught the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, really though, we overanalyze this. Like, he could have just played the ball better, and they win a World Series. And I don't know, maybe he had a long career after that and was really good, made All-Star
teams. Is he still playing?
I don't even know.
Cruz plays for the Padres. Yeah. He's their DH.
Yeah.
He doesn't. They didn't even let him touch a glove anymore.
It's one of those snow cone catches that he could have made. God.
Yeah, I watched the Padres and Mets the other night. The Padres lineup is lethal.
Yeah. Nelson Cruz, who's hit like a bunch of home runs in his career but couldn't make the one catch. And even then, the Rangers took the lead in the bottom of the inning. Isn't that right?
I mean, Josh Hamilton
the next inning,
massive home run.
And they still couldn't hold it.
Yeah.
And then we're on our way to Stephenville, I believe, to go cover a high school football game for Game 7's coming up that night, and the Rangers were down early, and then it was over. It was Craig, what's the most gut-wrenching moment for one of your favorite teams in a losing moment? Like something, would that be a part of that discussion?
I mean, yeah. Why? Yeah. I mean, that definitely be a part of the discussion. I think we've talked about this before. I don't really know what would top it. I didn't like it when the Mavs lost to the Heat in the finals, but they got it back, so I don't really care. And they got it back plus LeBron, so that was better than if they had just won the first time, in my opinion, given Dirk's legacy and the way it was cemented and beating the big three and them making fun of Dirk and him just dunking on them and shutting them up. That was great. So Rangers never got that payback, though. So, that would be it.
Yeah, that would be it. Nebraska against Miami in 83 that created Miami's run, 31-30 when they went for 2 and it was tipped away. Paul's a Red Sox fan. There's never been bad nightmare memories. Or Florida State.
Look, now, I can't complain. I can't complain. Like, here's the deal. I have a lot. Like, I can't complain about anything. I can't. I've had pain, but it's all been made up for.
All right. When we come back, we will have Paul Catalina's top 5 to close out the week, and this is 365 Sports. Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession? We
selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 other recruiting issues that need addressing or that coaches would like addressed or the powers that be would like addressed. Number 5, when should you start recruiting players? Now that the calendar's starting to move a little bit, I know that there is some groundswell or maybe a kind of a large groundswell among coaches to be able to start recruiting them even earlier in their high school careers. I'm not sure.
Like seems like that happens with women's basketball prior.
Yeah,
it seems like it.
Yeah, and men's basketball, men's basketball seems to happen earlier and earlier. But football, you do have harder cap restrictions on that. I'm not sure what the right answer here is on this. Like, should you be able to go recruit kids at the end of their freshman year, which they can't do right now, although they kind of can because of camps and whatnot? I don't know what the right answer is here. Like, I don't really have a position on it, but it is something that they want to address and is going to be out there until there's a new rule on it.
Yeah, I have no idea. What the thing to do here is. That's for those who are deep in the recruiting weeds to figure out.
Isn't there you can't do anything till they're a junior? Is that what you're saying, Paul, that they're wanting to do something?
I think they have to be like a rising junior. I think right now they want them to do rising sophomores.
Okay.
Yeah, I know baseball just fixed their calendar apparently that they're not allowing you to get contacted until I guess like something I just saw it earlier, like your start of your junior year or something like that. And I don't know how they're retroactively going to go fix previous offers made to like 8th graders or whatever, but they have made that tweak to the baseball side of things. You obviously couldn't do that in football. I don't think you could have it to where you're just recruiting juniors, to start off with. But, yeah, I don't know what the answer is here as far as what's the best for all involved.
Yeah. Number 4, and they just did this, but I do think they could maybe even go further. Could you take away more days on the road? They took away a bunch, and shortened the recruiting calendar, which is, I think, great for the quality of life of coaches, not only and players, honestly, but for coaches, not only college coaches, but high school coaches who, if you get a call and say, hey, Marcus Freeman's here on this, like, hey, Marcus Freeman's coming today, and you're like, well, I was there goes that nice dinner I was going to go to, because you got to kind of hang out and do all those things. So I think that part of it was just a lot of old school things. Like, you had to be in the room in front of kids for so long because it was harder to communicate with people. Now it's easy to get in touch with people. You don't need to be there all the time. Heck, they're texting with these guys all the time anyway. So I think it's a good idea to take the days away on the road. And I think they could maybe even see if they could shorten that even more in the future just due to technology.
Lindale has this kid, Casey Poe. He's an offensive lineman, is really, really good. And they might have one or two others that are pretty good. Poe has gotten offers from all over the country. Coach Cochran, who's the head coach at Lindale, his brother's on staff at Tech, said to me there was one day where he went into the field house like at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, which some coaches, and he got home like past midnight because he was entertaining so many coaches over a 2 or 3, 4 or 5 day period when they all started hitting the road.
What do you think?
He had no time.
What do you think it's like at Lake Belton right now?
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
I mean,
with what, Bridges and Micah Hudson? Yeah. Good gosh.
Yeah. Number 3, is the transfer portal window working for everyone? I mean, I think this was a good idea to put it a window, but is the timing right? How much can you tweak this going forward and improve it to make it make sense the most it can? And maybe we're at the only way it's going to be better, but I do think that there's still, even with the window, some confusion. And like I said, look, it ends on April 30th and other people's springs, and that might be their own fault because it's not like something the conference schedules out for you that they scheduled on April 29th to end. So
I got a question, Craig, Paul.
Okay.
Spring drills ends. Some have already done. So the portal starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Aren't you in class? If you transfer and school's not over.
Well, you're just saying you're going to transfer. You
can't transfer
school
to the end of school?
Yeah.
I wonder
how. A month left. That's all.
Yeah, I know. But it just. I sure hope that's all on the up and up with everyone.
Look, there'll be some colleges that are done next week, Smokey.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Just done for that semester.
I mean, Baylor's going to be done in probably less than a month, right? About a month. Is that right, Emory? Yeah.
So
okay. All right. That's not as bad as I thought.
No. Number 2, NIL transparency. And the reason I say this, I'm not even talking about guardrails here. I think one of the things you need to do is just let's quit pretending that the schools shouldn't be involved in this. Like, this is for this and that and the other thing. Like, take away all the pretense to it. Like some of these things are made, like, they can't be for this, it can't be for that, but we know that it totally is. So let's just figure out, when it comes to recruiting, like, what the school has, what they can do, not that it has to go through this weird, channels of, legitimacy. Make those channels really clear of what they can do, and the school can say yes. When you come to get recruited, you can say, okay, you're going to go see the NIL coordinator right now. Here are the offers available to you from our kind of like NFL agents, approved list of collectives, and then you can go. The collective can spend as much money as they want, but the school can facilitate all of it so that it's not, and I know that that's probably not the best solution because, given the history, the schools can't completely be trusted, but I think it's better than just, all right, go see Fred or this guy,
which is
Fred.
what they used to do.
Yeah, it's just.
Hey, by the way, go to the coffee shop and there's a brown paper sack.
Yeah.
With maybe coupons in it.
Yeah. Order the chocolate chip pancakes with extra ketchup.
You guys see USC has a new collective that is like it's taking them to another level. And they got a late start with theirs.
Yeah, I mean the collective's exactly what he's talking about. It's under the USC umbrella. It's owned or not owned, but it's operating with USC's permission and gets their watermarks and gets to use all of their logos and is basically their deal now. So when it comes to the NIL stuff, man, there's some days where I find it fascinating. There's some days where I'm just like, figure it the F out already. Like the freaking just constant, like, well, what do we do here? And how do we do this? And it's just, let's just play college football. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how they fix it. I don't know. Like, we start talking about governments and I'm immediately just like, oh God. But yeah, it just seems so much more complicated than it needs to be. Am I wrong?
No, it
just
seems
so what you were doing before, except when you pay somebody, do it on the table.
It's just so complicated for stupid reasons. I mean, just be above board and let the schools handle it, and whatever makes it simpler and clearer and easier to follow along with, and better for the student athlete. Fine, do whatever. But like all of this, this is not this, but this is under this, but it's not that because you can't do this. It's just like, figure it out already.
It's
like,
the
God almighty.
It's the new you can have bagels but not cream cheese rule.
Right. It's just.
I mean, that's what it is.
I think more people probably agree with you.
And
you're not saying it's bad. What you're saying is just figure it out.
Yeah, like I mean, it's all fine. I mean, I'm not anti-collective or anything like that. It's just I'm having a hard time following along with what is what in all of this, and what this collective is versus what that collective is, and why this one's good but that one's not, and why this school works with this one but they don't. On this school will work with any of them, and it's just, it seems like it's very complicated and doesn't need to be that complicated, and I don't know why that is, whether it's state politics or the universities themselves, but I just wish everybody would just be more transparent and play with the same rules, and just be a lot clearer on the direction that everybody's trying to row all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And number one, and this is a big one, find the best time for signing periods. Because now the way that the calendar falls, it's a mess for coaches.
I don't think you can do that because the transfer.
Well, yeah, I know
if let's say you're Micah Hudson and today you commit to USC or Texas or right? Ohio State. And you don't have to, right? I mean, if you sign, why would I wish it was more tidy, but I don't know if they can do that.
I think really the only thing you can do, because the transfer window essentially has to be when it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the only thing you can do is move the early signing period up, which then complicates it, because right now it's in a good spot because every state but this one, which grinds high school football into a fine white powder and snorts it, is done. Like Texas has, a few teams still in the state championships, but for the most part, the other 49 states are done. Nobody's playing games anymore. So you can navigate one state as opposed to 49. But if you move it, say, 3 or 4 weeks up, then pretty much everybody's in their state championships. Everybody's still playing high school football. Everybody might still be in their playoffs, so then it makes it harder on the high school kids. So the only way I think you can do it and make it make sense is to move it before the season, which is nobody really wants. So it's really confusing.
Yeah, I mean, signing day number 2's still fine where it is. That one's not had an issue, although it's just a lot less popular. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't have kids in school. I don't know what the calendars are like these days and how it all fits together puzzle piece-wise. I don't know if there is a perfect spot. Because you know what's going to happen is, let's move it before the season. And then what happens? Somebody inevitably, you can't do that. Or somebody signs early, and that's too early because then Ohio State called in October, and they're already signed. And then they go to the appeal to the NCAA, and the NCAA never says no to anything. So then, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I mean, in theory, I guess you could change it. I don't know how many issues there are with the way that it is right now. I mean, early signing period seems to have been pretty okay. And it hasn't killed off the second one. But, yeah, I just don't know when a better time or a best time would be as far as that goes.
You're going to have to move it to, like, August 1st and where it is now in February.
Right.
So where if you're really locked in August, then you can do it.
It's just going to take –
it's going to be less people that will sign in August because now they're going to want to sign in.
It's going to be – all it takes is one student-athlete or whoever to say, well, I didn't know about – or someone gets in trouble – a coach or a player or a team.
What are you going to sign in August and the coach gets fired and then what?
Yeah, doesn't do any good.
So, I mean, if you're never going to say no to anything, then it doesn't really matter when you do it. It doesn't really change anything. And, I think doing it before the season, it just leaves more room for guys who have super senior year and all of a sudden blow up, but thought that Bowling Green was going to be the only school they, and maybe that's just assuming that would be the case. That's automatically where my head goes, though. So, I don't know when, like I said, a better time would be.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. The top 5. Emery, great job with the graphics. Appreciate that. Jack McKenzie just left. Remember the Mavericks and how we talked about earlier this week, the way they ended the year, that game with the Bulls? They were fined $750,000 for resting players in a key game. He could do that to any team. You can't do much more than that because everybody has been guilty of probably giving up games at the end of the year. Tomorrow's spring games, TCU. Tomorrow's spring game, UCF. Tomorrow's spring game tomorrow's spring game, Texas and Cincinnati. Tonight, TCU, and tonight, UCF, as we had Mark Daniels discuss that yesterday on the show. All right, Garrett Ross, Emery, thank you. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. Appreciate everybody for what you do, and all of you in the chat room, all of you in the text room, text line, and also, of course, our amazing sponsors as we continue to grow. I'm David Smoak. Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. This is 365 Sports.